Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. If you're wanting to get a head start on some Easter DIYs, maybe you've got a craft show coming up, you just want to get some creative juices flowing, or you just want to hang out for a little bit and craft, I have some really fun Easter DIYs for you. In fact, I have 35 of them. This is a mega video, so let's get right into the DIYs. I absolutely love working with this tin, like faux tin tile that you get at Dollar Tree. I buy like several of them when I find them because they're so great to work with. And they come in lots of different colors, but I love that it's the white and silver now. I just printed this little bunny. This is just an image that I got off of Canva, and I just printed it off on some cardstock. I made it as big as I could go on just a regular cardstock, like 8x11 piece of paper. And now I'm just going to open up this little tin, faux tin. I keep calling it tin because in my mind it is, because that's what I want it to look like is real tin, but I know it's faux tin. Anyhow, I just traced this cute little bunny silhouette out, and then I'm just going to cut this out with some scissors. You guys, if you've never worked with this stuff, it is so fun and it is so easy. It cuts like butter. Like those scissors, I mean, it just goes right through it. It's a very thin plastic, but it just cuts really well. You can get all those little intricate details, and it's not like sharp really on the edges. I mean, always be careful, but it's not like a very heavy plastic that would be. So now I'm just going to cover our little bunny here in some white chalk paint. This would be so fun to customize it to whatever color you wanted to do. You can even use this technique for different seasons. So you have a different season you want to do a little cutout or something. I mean, it doesn't have to be limited to Easter. Now on the back, I'm just blasting it with a little bit of my heat gun and pressing it down. I'm just going to give it kind of a concave look. When I flip it over, you'll be able to see the edges are kind of rounded over to look like it really was like pressed tin. Now I'm using a little bit of brushed metallic silver here to kind of dry brush over those highlighted areas there. That just means I dip my brush in the silver, I wipe it off on a paper towel, and then just kind of lightly go over those raised areas. The reason I did that is so it would look like it was metal that was painted and then it was kind of worn off on those raised areas. Now I'm taking some burnt umber. You can use antiquing wax, you can use any kind of dark brown paint, and I'm just going around the edges with my stencil brush, and as I kind of dry brush that, or not dry brush it, but distress the edges with that, I'll rub it with my finger to kind of blend it in to make it look like it's rusted and it's just very aged. And I go over kind of lightly over the whole bunny with whatever's left in my brush. Now this picture I got at Hobby Lobby during one of their 75% off sales. This is from spring of last year. You guys always check those clearance sections at Hobby Lobby, JoAnns, Michael's, like Home Goods and TJ Maxx, and just look for different surfaces you can use for crafts because you can get the best deals. Now I covered it with some elephant chalk paint, and then to add some variation, I used a really light lime green color, and then I'm also using, this is Agave by Waverly's chalk paint, so it's kind of a tealy type color, and just very lightly I'm going over those areas on that chalk paint where the elephant chalk paint dries. It kind of adds a little texture. This just makes it look almost chalkboardy, I guess, but I just love the variation that adds a little bit more detail to it. So now I'm just taking some tumbling tower blocks. I'm going to place these all over this cute little bunny here. This is so when I place him on our surface, it's going to give him that really 3D look there. So I just use hot glue to do all of this, and then I just set him down, kind of center him while the glue is hot there. I can kind of manipulate him a little bit, make sure he's on there really good. And I have this cute little bow tie that I add on to him, and look at how absolutely darling this looks. I love the really neutral feel to this. I think this has such a darling look, and really this could be all springtime and Easter. What do you guys think of him? I just think he turned out so cute. I think this is the cutest sign from Dollar Tree. If you watched my haul video a couple weeks ago, you'll remember this sign, and I loved it, and I wanted to find something to do with it to keep it as close to original state as I could because it was so cute. So I'm going to make a wreath with it. I'm just taking a wreath form, and this is just a garland. You can pick these up like at any craft store. I pick them up when they're like 40 or 50% off. I actually used some of the end of it there for my niece's bridal shower. I tore some little sprigs off to kind of use to tuck in like on our serving table. So I don't end up using like everything I have here, but it just kind of depends on how full you want your wreath to be. So I'm just placing this around the form, and I'm going to use some zip ties on the outer ring of the wreath form, and I'll just put that through the center of the vine or the garland there, and I'll just zip tie those together. You could use some floral wire if you wanted. I really just like the security of the zip ties. They're easy to use. I don't know, sometimes the wire starts to hurt my hands after a while when I use it. And so that's kind of why I like to use the zip ties. So it's just a matter of personal preference. But I do pick these zip ties up at Dollar Tree. At my Dollar Tree, they're in the automotive section. So if you're looking for those, that's kind of the aisle that they're down by kind of like, it's like hardware and automotive, I guess. So check there. Then I'm just going, once I get that outer ring all done, I just snip these off. Scissors will work. They're a little thick, these bigger ones, for some scissors if you don't want to damage those. So I'm just using my little snippers there. Now, it really kind of looks sad at this point, so don't worry. It looks okay in the end, I promise you. I absolutely love how this turns out. So I'm just kind of fluffing out the garland here and seeing where I need to add some more zip ties to, because you've got those other rings you can see on that form there. And so you're going to zip tie some more down here. So I'm just getting all going in that same direction and kind of getting a general idea. And I'm going to place the sign in the middle. And you can see, I mean, look how cute it's starting to look, you guys. See, I told you it was going to look cute. It's going to be beautiful in the end, I promise. So I'm just kind of deciding where I need to go next with the zip ties here. And so I move in one ring. So it's the second to outer ring. That's going to be where I'm going to place all around, because the sign is going to cover the next two areas of the rings. So everywhere it looks like you can pull that vine to that second ring, I just put a little zip tie, and I'm just using a smaller zip tie. Honestly, I probably could have used small zip ties for the whole thing. I just didn't have enough, so that's why I used the bigger ones on the outer ring. And then after I go all the way around and can see that it's all adhered to that wreath form, I'm going to put my sign in, and I'm just going to pull all of that greenery up around the wreath, because you don't want to have any of it tucked behind. And you can see here it's got these little holes up at the top of the sign where the hanging tag was. And so I'm going to use those to help get this onto the sign. So onto the wreath form. So I'm just putting some zip ties through, and I will just tighten those in the back, and I do it on either side. And you can see I just snip those off there just with some wire cutters. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll cover those up, and I'll show you kind of how I do that. But this is going to give that security. Obviously, you want this sign adhered to this wreath form, so it's not going to go anywhere or blow anywhere. You don't want to go to all the trouble of making this wreath and then have it all blow apart. So you just want to make sure that it's really secure here. Now, when I flip this over, I kind of realized that the bottom of it, obviously there's no holes or anything in the bottom of it, but I really want to have it zip tied down also. And so I'm going to pull out here in just a second my Crocodile. I love this tool. I use it for a lot of things. It is a little bit pricey. I mean, around like the $25 or $35 range. I can't remember exactly, but definitely worth the investment if you think you're going to use it a lot. It does grommets and things like that is what it's technically used for, but it is perfect for these Dollar Tree signs. You can kind of see here, I'm going to stick this in, and it just punches a hole so easy in it. And it's a nice size hole. You don't have to use like an actual hole punch and sit there. Sometimes those hole punches, when you use them on things like this, they just don't work well. So it is a great tool. I'll leave a link to the one on Amazon, but I did see them at Hobby Lobby last time I was there. So I think they're starting to be found more like in the scrapbook section of your craft stores. So I'm going to zip tie this part of the sign also, and that's just going to make sure that the top and the bottom, the sign is well secured. Now, to make sure that these little zip ties are covered, I'm just putting a little dot of glue, and I'm just going to press down some of the leaves or the little branches of this little greenery here. You'll still be able to see the welcome, but it will cover those, and that way it makes it so that way you're not going to see like those blaring white zip ties there. I mean, you could paint them, you could add, whatever you want to do, but this is what worked for me. Now, I have these picks of carrots. I picked these up from Hobby Lobby, and I thought they were so cute, and I originally was just going to take a couple of the carrots and put all the way around the wreath, which would be adorable too, but I thought it would be fun to kind of make a little showcase swag down here at the bottom of it. So I'm just taking two of these picks and just putting them, as you can see, crossed over so they meet in the middle, and then it has kind of a bunch of carrots on either side. And you can see I just stuck their little stems through. I'm going to zip tie that right in the middle, so it's going to secure them. And then their little stems, you can wrap those kind of and tuck them into the wires on the wreath form to help them stay put as well. So now I'm going to take some carrots off of this other pick that I have here, and so that way I can, and I actually cut all of the flowers and everything off this pick. because they were so cute and I thought it would be fun and it would make the wreath look so much more full to have these all the way around it. Now I just kind of place each carrot on here and you just kind of play around and see how you want them, if you want them every which way. As I get this one in there, I decide, no, I want them all kind of facing like the same way, as if they were all going in a circle around the wreath there. And since I had 3 little sprigs of these white flowers, I just stuck one in with each of the carrots there. I just thought that added such a fun little fullness to the wreath and just kind of made it so whimsical and cute. Now, since these came from this stem, like the pick, they have these wires on them. And so I just, rather than zip tying these, I'm just going to wrap those wires very securely around the wreath form. And I do that both with the flowers and the carrots, and that's just going to make sure they're not going anywhere. You just want to make sure that they are definitely wrapped around 2 or 3 times very securely. I think this is looking so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, so for the center of the bottom there, I just got some burlap ribbon and tied it just in a shoestring bow here. I thought that was just perfect. You could embellish this any way you wanted. You could have left it with the raffia there. You could have made a big bow, whatever. I mean, everybody's very particular. I know that sometimes when I make big bows, I get, oh, that bow's way too big. Or if I add a bow at all, oh, you shouldn't add. Do whatever you want in the middle of this. It's going to be absolutely beautiful and it's going to be your taste. But I just thought for this, for my house, I really like this burlap bow on it. And I left the raffia that was on the picks originally on there too. So it kind of just adds a little bit more fluffiness and texture. And I did just zip tie this bow on here as well. So it's not going anywhere. And that way it's just going to be so cute on there. I thought the burlap was just kind of a fun addition with the carrots and gardening, because you kind of, burlap's just one of those materials that you use every once in a while. So I just thought it all fit together, and I just fluffed the bow up here. And oh my gosh, you guys, like, this just took this sign to the next level. Now, as I'm looking at this, there's a few areas that are a little sparse or that maybe need a little extra. So I'm just going to take the little bits from the garland here that I have left over, and I'm just going to use some zip ties and just zip tie each of those in wherever I feel that it needs a little bit more fullness. So you can just kind of go around and do that. If you don't have any garland left over, see if there's some other type of greenery that you can add, or different flowers or something. Use your imagination, just something to kind of help it look not so sparse in some areas and get it as full looking as you want. That's what's going to make this look nice and expensive and high end, is the fact that it's going to be very full and have all these different textural elements and everything to it. I loved this sign and this wreath so much that the second that I finished this, I immediately took it and placed it on my front door. I mean, never mind the fact that it snowed the next day and I have a spring wreath on my door. It's totally fine. Eventually the snow will stop, but I'm trying to channel that inner spring, and you know, I just want spring and nice weather for everyone. But I really think this is such a fun wreath. I really think those carrots pop so cute, especially against the color of my door. And I just love that little truck. Dollar Tree really did a great job with this sign. So hopefully you can find some of these and you can make some fun projects with them too. If you watched my Easter Dollar Tree haul, you'll know that I picked up a couple of these bunnies, and I really wanted to make this over into a primitive looking bunny to have a really kind of aged look. And I've never really done a whole lot of the primitive look, so it was kind of new to me. And I was actually watching Lisa from Our Shabby Cottage, and she did one of these last year, and she had the brilliant idea to use this distressing ink on the bunny, especially this brown. There's a brown bunny and a white bunny, and she used it on this brown bunny, and I thought that's genius because it really does age this bunny. Now, if you're not familiar with the primitive look, it is a very aged, old, and like dirty kind of look. So it really does look like this is hundreds of years old is what you're going for. And I know that's not everybody's style, but I really do love the primitive look. I just don't have a lot of it, but I thought it would be really fun to kind of test the waters here. Hopefully I do a good job and you guys think it looks good in the end, but I really just, this was a lot of fun. I mean, this was, even my daughter came down and watched while I was doing this and was like, this is so cute. It's like, she loved it. So, and she's like 15, so she thought it was pretty cool. So anyways, I'm going over with that distressing ink to kind of age this bunny and have it look very old. Now I know some people have used like Mod Podge and cinnamon even to get that dirty look. You can tea dye like the white bunny or coffee dye or something. So however you want to age it up, but this distressing ink, if you have that, worked really well. Now I'm just taking some scrap fabric that I have, and I'm going to make a little apron for our little bunny. And I'm just going to fray the edges of the apron there of all this fabric here, so it just looks like ratted and tattered. And then I cut a long strip here. This is going to be like the straps of the apron. And so you can kind of see down in there. I think I skewed it up here in a second for you guys to see this a little bit better, but this is just going to be, you know, like the front of the apron, and those ties go over the shoulder and then tie in the back. So I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue, and that's just going to place those straps down here. Now you guys, I have a jar of buttons, of all sorts of different buttons, but do you think that I could find that jar? I mean, the primitive look uses like a lot of buttons and a lot of like age safety pins or things. I mean, there's a lot of fun little elements to do with it, but I could not find my buttons to save my life. So I scrounged up what buttons I could find. So they may not be as perfect as if I find my jar of buttons somewhere. Apparently I need to be on the lookout for some more buttons to add. Then I may change these out, but you'll have to let me know what you think of what I end up using here. The apron, when I put on our cute little bunny here, was a little bit long, so I just cut that off to about where I wanted it to fall. And then I will just go back in here and just make sure that I make that look a little shabby there by peeling out the little strings there. Now this is just a little pocket shape that I cut out of some other scrap fabric here. It kind of matched. It had like little polka dots on it. And I'm just going to hot glue this on to have a little pocket there, because we're going to stuff a little something inside of that here in just a moment. So just using my hot glue, I turn this over and place the pocket. But what I do is I end up sticking my fingers in. You'll kind of see here, I push the edges down, but I want to make sure there's enough room for anything that we might want to stuff in the pocket. So I just stick my fingers in and kind of like balloon it out a little bit. So that way you make sure that you can fit anything in there that you might want to. So now I'm going in and putting a couple of buttons on where like a natural button would go with that apron. Like maybe that's how that strap is affixed to this. And so I just go on either side and place those little buttons. Again, if I find my jar of buttons, I may go in and replace. These were pretty basic buttons that I found, but it was better than nothing. But I also thought it would be really cute to go over the eyes with the buttons as well. That way it kind of looks a little bit more like a traditional, what you would see in the primitive look. And then to make sure that I get these on okay, I'm using my little needle nose pliers there. That just helps me go in and get the precision that I want, rather than like, I mean, if I was to do this with my fingers, I'd probably drop the button and mess it up or something. So that's why I end up using my pliers there, which actually worked really well to get these on. So you can see I just put that glue down. I'm kind of letting it dry a little bit so it's not going to go seeping out everywhere when you place that down. And then with that needle nose, set of needle nose pliers, you can just place that button right down there. And I just thought that gave her just a cute little look. Now, since I want to make her really kind of girly, I thought I will do a little bow or something here. So this is just another fabric that's kind of has the same green tones to it, but it's just a striped fabric here. But I just am using my little X-Acto knife here to kind of peel out some of those threads, and then I will just pull down on the threads too. And that's how I kind of fray the edges of it. But I just want to make all of the ribbon nice and frayed. And actually, when I get this done, you'll see here, I decided I want to age this a little bit too. So I'm just running that ink just over this ribbon front and back. And instead of tying a bow, what I end up doing is I just tie a singular knot into it. And I thought that was really cute, because rather than have it be like a traditional bow, it might actually be just tied in a knot, and that might have been what worked when they were making, you know, a primitive doll or something like this. And so I'm just going to take this and glue this just right next to one of the ears there, so it's kind of off-centered. And then the little tails of that bow. And if you want to trim them at all or anything, I mean, do that, but just make sure if you do that you just fray those edges so you don't have any like new edges on it. So one thing I'm going to do now, and I noticed this on a lot of inspiration pieces that I looked up, is some of the bunnies would have little whiskers. And I thought, well, would I sew them on? How would I get them? So on this particular bunny, that nose just lifts up. There's a little bit of glue from Dollar Tree that's holding it down. But I just lifted it up, and then I took the thinnest twine that I could find, that I had even some string or some embroidery thread or something. I just took 3 pieces of it, and I just put those in the glue and then pushed the nose back over the top of it to give her some cute little bunny whiskers there. I don't know, a lot of the pieces that when I looked at primitive bunnies had those, and I thought it really added a fun little look to it. Now I'm just taking a little bit of Dollar Tree greenery here, and I thought, well, this is going to be really cute. Let's just stick some of this little lavender sticking out of her pocket. And then it looked a little bare just to have the one piece there. So I'm just taking off the little greenery that was behind it, and I'll stuff that down there. But I mean, how cute would it be if you had like a cute little heart tucked in there, or a little chick or something? I mean, there's so many cute things that you could do, but even just the flowers were super fun. Now I wanted to put a little rusty not paperclip, but safety pin on here. However, I tried to soak some in vinegar to get that rusty look, but safety pins must take a lot longer than the galvanized metal that I've done before, because they were like as shiny as could be when I pulled them out. So I'm just taking some burnt umber from Apple Barrel, and I'm just getting this pouncing on here. It took 2 or 3 coats. You just want to make sure to let it dry completely in between each coat, because it will kind of rub off. But even some Mod Podge and some cinnamon would do the trick. And if I had some cinnamon, that's probably what I would have done. Either way, it still looks like a little rusty aged paper. I keep wanting to say paper clip, but it's a safety pin clearly. But I do go in, there was just a little bit of a part of the paint that kind of rubbed off there. So I just went in and touched that up with my brush. But I think she looks so cute. Do you guys think I hit that primitive look, or are you thinking that you absolutely hate it? Let me know down in the comments. I just think that she turned out so fun and cute. And you know, my daughter was there with me the whole time making it, and she thought it was so cute. And I mean, that makes it worth it right there, right? That when you do something and your kids are like, oh my gosh, she turned out so cute, and she thought it was so fun. So we need to name her, guys. So I love it when you guys come up with your fun names. So leave me a name for her down in the comments. But I just think she turned out so dang cute. This is a true trash to treasure DIY, but I love how it turns out. So I have this can left over for my dinner the other night, and I rinsed it out really good, obviously washed it with soap and water and everything, and I'm just removing the base of the can. And if there was any sharp edges, you're just going to use a fingernail file to make sure that nobody hurts himself on this. And I'm going to make this to be a little like hanging basket. Well, you'll see what I do with it here. You probably already know, but anyway, I'm just using a rubber mallet here to kind of pound this into shape. And honestly, I didn't have to pound it that hard. And it really was easy to manipulate here once that like the base and the top were gone out of it. But I just wanted to make sure that that base there was closed off really well, and I had a very flat surface to work with. But I think this turns out so cute, so I'm so excited to show this to you. Now this is a crocodile. It is a tool that cuts and puts grommets in, so that's what I'm doing here. So I pinched a hole or cut a hole in each side, and then I put the little grommet tool on, and then you just press it on there. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it other than you can kind of see what I did there, but it finishes it off so much. It gives it a really nice crisp look, and that way you don't have any sharp edges or anything like that from like the cut metal. Now this is just some elephant chalk paint that I go all over, and now I am taking some burnt umber. I'm just trying to make this look very aged. I want it to look like it's been sitting out, forgotten about for years, something like that. I love coming up with ways to do faux rust. Cinnamon is a way that you guys always suggest. I have yet to try that technique, but what I take now is some Merlot, I think was the color that on this one. And it's just a really deep maroon and just a little bit. And then I take a little bit of pumpkin. This is just adding some different variations for the rust here. And so you can kind of see it start to take shape there. And the thing that does it is this yellow color. And I just put a little, and I mean just a little bit of yellow to brighten it up. But it, like, honestly, it really makes it look like rust. You could even use a little bit of baking soda if you wanted some texture. I felt like with the texture of the can, I didn't really need that. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with Mod Podge once the paint dries, so that way I'm not going to chip or flake any of the paint off, because we want it to kind of keep this aged look. So I just go over both sides with some matte Mod Podge. Make sure that it's matte. I like, at least I like the way that that looks. Now I got these napkins at Home Goods, and I've done quite a few projects for spring with them, and I'm just loving them still. So I thought this would be a perfect project to do here. So I'm just cutting out this cute little chicks and those little eggs there. And by cutting, I don't really mean cutting. I mean, I'm using a brush, as you can see here, with some water, and then you just tear away the edges. So see how that was the bottom of the napkin? I didn't want that crisp edge. I want it to look very kind of natural, like it was just kind of torn out of something. And that is the easiest way to do that. With the napkins are so easy to work with. And look at how cute. I just think these are so darling. Check Dollar Tree, check Dollar General, Walmart. I got these at Home Goods, is a great place to check, or TJ Maxx for napkins, but all seasons they have such fun napkins, and start looking at them with what DIYs can I do out of these? Because there are so many fun ones. And then just using some Mod Podge, you place down where you want your little piece of the napkin, and then you just go over the top of it with some Mod Podge to make sure it is sealed in really good. Now, if for instance you couldn't find napkins or there was a design online you really liked, I show several videos, I can link some below in my description box if you want me to, of how you can print your own item on tissue paper and do basically the same process. Like, there are so many fun things that you can do with like the decoupage process. I just think that it's so much fun, and you just use your imagination. I mean, there's no right or wrong. Honestly, halfway through I'm like, ugh, is this even gonna look good? And I feel like it always turns out so cute. So I'm just taking the little bunny here and I'm putting the bunny on the back because I wanted this to be visible from all sides, that it would look like it had stuff done to it. Now, I did a project like this in one of my videos in like earlier this week or last week or sometime, and I used a little hanging metal basket from the Dollar Tree, and a lot of you messaged me and were like, we can't find those baskets at the Dollar Tree. This would be perfect to use a tin can like this instead of that, because I know sometimes Dollar Tree is not consistent. Now, I have this lace. This was like self-adhesive lace from the wedding section at Hobby Lobby, and I just put that around the bottom. I thought it would look so cute and kind of add a little shabby chic flair, soften it up a little bit. And this is just fencing wire. So I honestly, we use this on our farm for fencing. It was just a kind of a roll that I kind of snuck out of my husband's truck from when he was fixing fence one day that I could use in my DIY projects. I feel like a little bit lighter gauge than this would probably work better. I don't even know what gauge this is, but I fit it through each of those holes on the side, and then just using some pliers, I spun it around to kind of twist it on. And then I did cut off the excess edge, and you can see I sanded down if there was any rough areas. And so now I'm putting in some Spanish moss, and originally I was just going to put these eggs in and call it done. And then I thought I had this cute little paper that I cut up from a book with some pinking shears, and I really loved the way that the pinking shears kind of added a little bit of a different texture than just the torn paper. And I got thinking, I had this little wooden chick, and I thought this would be so cute to kind of have the chick in there, since the little design on the front is the chicks and the eggs, is to put this little chick with the eggs. But I couldn't think of how I wanted to do it because I didn't want to take away from the color of the can, like the designs on the can. So I just tore up some paper here, and then just using Mod Podge, just randomly placed the paper. There was no rhyme or reason to this, you guys. I just went for it, just stuck them on kind of close to the same shape, but you're going to end up cutting it out after it dries. So you can see here I just used the scissors and I got as close to the edge as I could. And then my little trick here with the fingernail file that gets into all of those little grooves and nooks and crannies. Look at how cute that little chick looks with the paper there. Now, I wanted to age it a little bit, so I am just taking it, and I am, this is just an aging kit that I got from the craft store. I believe they sell, JoAnns, I think is where I got this from. But I just went with that little ink. You could easily use antiquing wax or just a little bit of like brown paint watered down on there. But I just wanted to age him up a little bit. And then I stuck those little eggs in there with a little bit of hot glue so they wouldn't go anywhere. And then I just thought this was so cute, but I needed, of course, to age it a little more because that's just my style. So, of course, that's totally optional. And I tied this cute little bow, twine bow on the edge there. And oh my gosh, like, I just think this is cute. Now, after I got it and looked at it, I was like, it's kind of missing a little bit of greenery. So I'm taking just a little bit of boxwood from Walmart and just a couple little sprigs of it, put some hot glue, and I just tuck it here and there just to kind of add a little bit more greenery into it. I felt like that kind of filled it out a little bit. But you guys, I literally pulled this tin can out of my garbage. It's a napkin and a book that was destined for the trash. Like, come on. I think this is so cute. I love it. It's that perfect little whimsical Easter decor, and I'm so excited to use this. Is this something that you guys would try? So I wanted to make a little hanging garland for my house. I love to do change up garlands for different times of the season or anything. So I'm taking 4 of these little eggs from a package that came from Dollar Tree that comes with, and can't remember if it's 6 or 8 guys, but there's a bunch of these in the package. So I paint them all white, and then I want to do just kind of like a little ticking stripe down. I've done a couple ticking stripe Easter decorations this year, and so I kind of wanted this to tie everything in, and they turn out so cute. So I really am going and embracing the little ticking stripe, but I'm using that washi tape and the just some painter's tape to make that stripe. So hopefully you can kind of tell what I'm doing here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but whenever I do stripes or anything and I use tape, I put a little bit of paint on my little sponge there and I pounce up and down, let that dry, and then you can go over and do your other coats. You can see I kind of use a brush there at the end to get it on thicker. What the pouncing does is it kind of seals where that little area is from your tape and your surface to give you those nice crisp lines. So you can see here as I tear off all of the paint, this is the most satisfying part when you're crafting of doing stripes, is peeling off that tape and seeing nice, crisp, clean lines. If you've ever done any type of striping or anything, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you were lucky enough to find some of the little wooden shapes at Dollar Tree that were the Easter shapes, you could easily use those for this or skip this part altogether. But I did cut out some little bunny shapes with some faux burlap paper on my Cricut, and I'm just going to use some purple school glue to glue those to the front of the eggs. So I've had a few people ask where I buy this school glue if I get it at Dollar Tree, and I don't. I do typically buy it at Walmart at back to school time. It goes on super cheap clearance. You can also get it on Amazon. But I have all these different styles of carrots that I could use for my garland, but I thought this plaid looked really cute with these stripes. And I got this package at Hobby Lobby, and it came with, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 and it ended up with the 40% off being only just like $2, I think, for all of them. Anyway, I just used some floral wire to wrap around each of the carrot tops, the little stems, and also on the top of the eggs. I just feed that through. I thought the floral wire would be kind of different, so that way they wouldn't like flop all around when it was hanging. Hopefully that makes sense. So for the actual garland part, I'm just using some rope from Dollar Tree. I just cut it down to size 6 feet was what I cut mine to. That's what fits my surface. And I just take these little loops. I make little loops on the end, and I'm just wrapping them with some more of that floral wire. And then I just twist it off on the end there. And that gives me, I have some little command hooks that I hang from side to side for my garland there. And I just fold it in half to find the middle, and that's where I stick that first carrot on. So I just kind of stick the floral wire through the rope, you can see here. And I wanted like a 6-inch gap, and I had one of these little pallets from Dollar Tree, and that's how I'm using what I'm using for my space, because my ruler was like 12 inches, so it didn't fit exactly, if that even makes sense to you. I just wanted something that I could hold in place there. And I just go through and just like twist all of these on, and it turns out so cute. I love this. It is definitely going to tie all of those other projects I've done in other videos this year with that little ticking stripe on there. I think it turned out so cute. Do you guys like to do garlands a lot? I have a couple places in my house I love to switch out for different seasons, and so I always like doing them. But I would love to know if you do like garlands, or if it's something that you're kind of not a big fan of. Isn't this little basket just the cutest? I picked this up at the thrift store, and since it was chicken wire on it, I just thought this will be the perfect little basket to do some eggs. Now I have this Hello Hobby chalk paint that is sage colored, and then I'm using some Dixie Belle vintage duck egg, and I love this vintage duck egg color. It is one of my favorite colors, and I love this paint. I have a lot of people ask, like, is it really worth it to invest in the Dixie Belle paint? Yes, it is. I usually end up doing 1, maybe 2 coats. On other brands, I have to do 3 or 4 coats. So the coverage is very good. Now, this sage right here, I'm like, this is really dark. This is not what I remember my sage color looking like. I remember being so much brighter than this. So I did realize later on that I had this Folk Art Sage chalk paint, and this is the paint I thought I was using. Now look at the difference here, you guys. They're both called sage, but they are 2 very different colors. So this is the color I love. I feel like this color is close to the vintage duck egg, but obviously a little brighter, a little more green tones to it. So if you don't want to invest in the Dixie Belle, the Folk Art Sage is a very close kind of match, or in the same ballpark. Now I'm just taking some antique wax here and a stencil brush, and I'm going to speckle these eggs here. And if you have a toothbrush or like a wire brush or something really stiff bristles on it, that's probably the better route to go. This still did have a little bit stiffer bristles than just a normal brush, but it took a little bit more effort than I would have liked to have gotten the speckles on here. I love the color of these eggs. We've had chickens before that have laid eggs in this kind of colors, and these totally look like eggs we would have gotten from them. Now, while the antique wax was still wet, I came in and I sprayed them with a little bit of water. I'm not sure I would do this again. I was kind of just going for like a vintage. I saw a picture on Pinterest with some eggs that looked like maybe that's what they had done. So I did that, just kind of made the little specks kind of run and kind of things on there, which is kind of the look I was going for, but it definitely is not necessary. Now I'm taking some moss here to put into the bottom of this cute little basket, and Spanish moss would work fine as well. However, as I place this in here and I go to lift this up, I'm like, oh, that moss is getting everywhere because the bottom of this basket is totally open. So I just am cutting some craft paper here, and then I'm just kind of using my craft stick here to press it down into the bottom. It's kind of just really just making it stick firm to those like the chicken wire, and that way when I put this in, it's not going to come out of the bottom. Now it could possibly still come out of the sides a little bit because those I left open, but the bottom is completely covered with that craft paper. So now that my eggs are dried, I'm just going to arrange them here in this cute little basket, and I have 3 of one color and 2 of another. I don't know that 6 eggs would have fit very comfortably in here. Usually you see eggs in like 6 or 12, I know. I felt like 4 was too few though. When I was kind of testing this out, I was like, I don't love that. So I went with 5, and this is how I arranged them. So I probably could have had another one and set on the top there, but I didn't have another blank egg to paint. So I kind of just went with what I had. I did grab a little bit of Spanish moss to tuck in between the eggs to kind of fill in that little like empty gaps there. I really do feel like the Spanish moss looks like a nest, and so I felt like it kind of worked with the eggs here, so it's just being tucked in. So totally optional, but it really did just kind of add another textural element to it. Now I thought it would be fun to make a little tag to go on here that said eggs, and so I'm just taking a tag. I buy these just in packages like at the craft store, but you could cut them out of paper. You could, you know, make your own, but I'm just aging it. So I'm just wrinkling it. You can kind of see with my nails, I'm kind of just bending it, going back and forth. I just want to have this have like a very weathered look. Like maybe this egg basket has been used for years and this tag has been on there for years, and they just fill it with fresh eggs every day. You guys know I love to make up stories behind my projects. It really kind of helps you decide where you want to take your project. Now this is some aging ink here, or distressing ink. I think it's Tim Holtz, I think is the brand on it. And I did just buy this at JoAnns, but they have a whole line of it at Michael's and at Hobby Lobby. And so it's kind of fun to use. Now you're supposed to use that little dauber to do this, but honestly, I feel like I get a better covering to my liking if I just spread the ink directly onto my surface like I am here. So just know that you do have the option to use that little dauber. It comes with some little like ends that you can take off so you can use the different colors. Now I've got this all like it's tea stained almost, and I'm going to go over with a darker color, and you can kind of see that all of those little ridges of the creases that we made, it's going to pick up this darker color, and I'm just lightly spreading this over the tag, and that's going to make all of those little wrinkles show up. Now these are from Dollar Tree, and I've had these for quite some time and I've never used them, but it's just some rub-on transfers with some different letters, and so I thought, well, I've got the whole alphabet here, it'll be kind of fun to try this. So you just do it 1 letter at a time, and then you just kind of scratch it off. I've even seen people use a pencil and they color over the letter with the pencil on the back side, and that transfers it. I'm just using like my little rubbing stick that I have here, like a craft stick would work fine. And then you just want to keep it in place and lift it up. Make sure that you've got your whole thing transferred there before you totally lift it off. And so I just go through and I got the E there, and I do 2 G's and then another S. Make sure when you're doing an alphabet though that you have enough letters. I panicked for a minute going, wait, I need another G, but there is 2 sets of alphabets on this particular rub-on transfer.
What's up, bro?
I really love this font. I think it really fits in with the vibe that I was going for. Now, I didn't have any numbers, but it would have been kind of fun to be able to put like a little price or something on there. I think that would be kind of fun. But just having the eggs on there I thought was really cute. Now I'm just using a little bit of twine, and I'm just going to tie this onto the handle here so it just kind of hangs off there. Really cute. I just thought this was so fun. I love that vintage color on the paper with those colors of the eggs. To me, that just is such a wonderful combination. The perfect of like vintage feel, I guess. Anyway, look at how beautiful and cute this looks. This truly is something you could leave out year round. I mean, yes, I made it for Easter and I'm calling it an Easter DIY, but honestly, in your kitchen, on a shelf, like in your china hutch or something, this is something that could stay out year round, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. Did you guys like how this one turned out? I found this darling pick at Hobby Lobby. There's actually 2 picks here, and I'll show you kind of what I mean by that in a minute. But I also have this little tin from Dollar Tree. This is the cutest little tin. It's just this plain silver, and it has this darling little handle. It's bigger than the tins in the wedding section, yet smaller than kind of their normal seasonal tins. And last year I purchased some Easter graphics that look like these like vintage Easter labels on Etsy. I'll leave the link to the store in my description box, but I just printed them out with my inkjet printer on just sticker paper that I picked up at the craft store. And I'm just going to cut one of these out because I thought it would be rather plain to leave the bucket, the little pail, like its plain color. And I really wanted to have something else on here to kind of make it definitely Easter. When I cut this out, since it is white paper and it had a black edge on it, I didn't want you to see any of the white from the like little shavings when you cut it. So I'm just taking my Sharpie and going around all of the edges just to make sure that it looks completely black and uniform all the way around. So since it is a sticker, you just peel it from the back of the paper and just line it up on your pail where you want it to be. Just keep in mind like where the handle is and everything to as far as where you want your design to be laid. And I mean, you could definitely leave this plain, or you could paint it or do something like that. You don't have to do one of the little stickers. A rub-on transfer would be really cute as well. I just really loved those vintage labels. Now I'm just taking some styrofoam here and I'm just placing my pail on it and going around with my putty knife just to kind of cut out where I need the shape to be. It's not really rocket science when you do this. I mean, even if you just had a square piece and you kind of just cut the corners off or shoved it down in anything that you want to do. I will say before I stick this in, I should have placed some little marbles or glass beads or something in the base of it to make the bottom a little more heavy. It's not going to tip over or anything, but you definitely, when you pick it up, can feel that there's not a lot of like weight to it. And so I would recommend doing that. See right here, I should have done this before I put this styrofoam in right here. But I mean, it still works out okay. Just learn from my advice, I guess. So anyhow, I stick that styrofoam in and get it pushed down. You want it to be just a little bit below the lip of the pail. And then I'm sticking this pick in and I'm realizing I don't love the height of it. So I'm just going to cut it down here, and I'm just using my little pliers here, my little cutters, snippers, whatever you want to call them. But I just kind of cut it down to where I think and then place that in to make sure that I have it the height that I want it. I just really thought this was so fun and Eastery, but it needed a little something extra. So I found this pick as well, just in the floral section, and it had these, I don't even know what this is. So if you know what this is, let me know. And maybe it said, and I just forgot to look. I just really like the look of these little fluffy little flowers that are all on here. I'm not really even sure how to describe them, but I do just want to show just a moment these cutters that I have that are so great to work with thicker wires here. You can kind of see where the tension is on those. I get asked about these all the time, and I just picked them up at my hardware store like at Lowe's or Home Depot, but they work really well, especially if you don't have a lot of strength in your hands to use just like traditional pliers. They work wonders. Now I stick these little pieces of this other pick that I have in here, and I felt like that just kind of added a little more fullness. I really like the texture that it added and that little pop of yellow. I know that it had a little bit of yellow already in there, but it really just kind of makes it look a little more happy in my opinion. But I want these to fit on here well and not fall off. And so I'm just going to kind of make a space in the pick to glue them with a little hot glue. You can kind of see here, I'm going to bend down some of these little berries that are on here. And I have that other pick in there with those little yellow flowers. And I just do a little bit of hot glue. Now this does take just a minute because you want to hold it in place until that hot glue dries mostly all the way. So I'm just going to sit there and hold that with my fingers, pinch it. If you need to wear some finger protectors, definitely do that. And then I'll just bend those back up in place. And then to cover, since they had a little bit of a different color of, it'd probably be fine to leave it like this, but the little stems were a different color. So I'm taking just some floral foam, or not floral foam, some floral tape, sorry. And I just got this off of the little piece that I cut off the end. I was able to just kind of snip that and unravel it. But you could cover the whole thing with a new type of floral tape just so it matches. And this is just going to give it a little more security, make it look a little bit more cohesive, because I really do just like how this all looks together here with those extra little flowers in there. So I'm just going to place this down into the hole that I created in the styrofoam there and get it positioned the exact height that I want it to be. And then since we placed that styrofoam down just a little bit below the edge of the pail, I'm going to put some hot glue on that, and I'm going to use just some grass or some moss here. Spanish moss would be really fun. This is just some like traditional, like, I don't even know what this moss is called. It's not reindeer moss, I just think it's like regular moss. I don't know, but it does shed a little bit. So you just want to be careful in the area that you're using it, because it does kind of get everywhere. I've heard some people say to spray some hairspray on it after you get it set, so that way it creates less shedding. If you have any ideas or thoughts on that, definitely let me know down in the comments. But I really love the look of the green with this, rather than the Spanish moss kind of has that grayish brownish tone. It's cute. It looks kind of like a nest or something, but I really did love the way that this green popped with it. And I had just a couple of little eggs that I took off of a little tree that I got from a thrift store that I kind of just use eggs here and there. They have wires on them already, so I just stuck the wires into the styrofoam, but you could easily just take some little extra eggs that you have and just glue them down onto that grass if they don't have a wire in them. And I just thought that kind of made it look really cute to have those little extra eggs on the pail there. Kind of breaks up the solidness of the grass. What do you guys think of this for a little Easter floral arrangement? I just think it's really pretty. I'm really pleased with how it came out, and it does just scream spring and Easter. And it really wasn't that expensive, and it really was such an easy project to put together. And I think it just is so cute. What do you guys think of this one? Let me know down in the comments. I love coming up with DIYs for these cutting boards from Dollar Tree, and I got this free image that I found on Pinterest. I'll link it below in my description box. I'm just showing you that I did pry up that front portion of this sign with my little putty knife there, and of course you can see it ripped everything off, so I just had to come to the fact that I needed to put some of this sticker transfer paper on here. This is just the removable sticker wallpaper that they have at Dollar Tree, and I really love the herringbone pattern. So I just cut that out to the shape of the cutting board. I cut around the edges. I'm using an X-Acto knife to get around the curves there. And then what I do to get that really crisp edge after I do my X-Acto knife here is I get a fingernail file, and I just file in a downward motion to get the crisp edge. That's just going to take all of that excess off. It's going to make it look like this actually was made to go on the cutting board. And then since the sticker is a kind of paper, you have kind of like a little white trim there, I just take some antiquing wax on a baby wipe, and I just go around the edges to kind of help that blend in. Now, I didn't have any type of surface that was the exact size as this printable image, so I just decided to make my own. This is just a back of one of the signs at Dollar Tree. I had used some of the stuff off the front of it before and was hanging onto it. All I did was just score it with my X-Acto knife. A utility knife would probably work a lot better, but this did work, so I just scored it there, and then I'll start my little cut with the scissors, and then I'm able to just kind of bend this, and it just snaps apart there. It does leave a little bit of a torn edge, so you want to use some sandpaper or your fingernail file there to make sure that you get all of that torn edge cleaned up. And then you guys know I absolutely love this purple school glue. I have so much success with projects like this. I absolutely love it. So I cover the sign surface really well, and then I made sure that the edges of the paper were well covered as also, so that way when I press it down, you're not going to have any peeling or anything like that. And I take my brayer here, which I do have this link down in my description box. I love this thing. So I'm just rubbing it all over, making sure you get a very good bond. Now, if the image does hang over a little bit like mine did, I just clean that up again with my fingernail file there. And then I decided on this to kind of age the postcard, the little printable there. So I just take some antiquing wax on a baby wipe, and again, just go around the edges of this. And I really like the way it looked. I kind of concentrated on the corners to kind of make it have even more of an aged look. It already prints out like that, but I just thought that I liked the way that it looked, so that's why I did that. That would be optional. Now, I love to do 3D signs. If you guys have watched me, you know that I love to create these for all different seasons, and I thought I would kind of do a different version of one. So rather than sticking styrofoam on the back and sticking my greenery into the styrofoam, I'm gluing it directly to the image here. So I just pulled apart, this is some greenery I got at Hobby Lobby. Any greenery will work, even like the Boxwood from Walmart or Dollar Tree, whatever you've got is going to work. I just cut it into some more manageable pieces, and I'm just gluing it onto the back so it peeks out from around the sign. And I decided to kind of have it all go in a similar direction. So it's almost going to look like it's a wreath behind this. So all of the leaves are facing the same circular direction. So they're normally, when I do these, they're kind of sprayed out of the edges, but I thought it would be kind of neat to do this one more in like a circular motion like this. And so on the top and the bottom, I didn't want as much greenery as on the sides, so I kind of pulled apart. You can kind of see how I have smaller sprigs that I'm working with there. And so I just started with a few, and as I got going and when I would turn it over, if I felt like I needed more, then I would add more. But I just really love the fresh look that this has. I think this is going to be so cute in my kitchen or my china hutch, wherever I decide to put it. But you can kind of see here those leaves. You can see I'm doing them that same direction and the same thing all the way around. Pretty basic here. You could also use a different type of glue if you don't want to use hot glue. I just love using hot glue because it's just so easy, but those little silicone finger things are perfect for projects like this. I just picked these up at Dollar Tree, but that way you can make sure that everything dries that hot glue and it's not going to burn your fingers. So when you see those, definitely pick them up. Now, to make this pop out, to have that 3D effect, I need to put some type of surface. So I'm just using some tumbling tower blocks. I put a layer of 4 down there and it wasn't quite as high as I wanted it. So I'm just putting some more hot glue to have that second layer of those so it pops out a little bit more, because I don't want to smush the greenery. So I'm just going to put a little bit, well, actually right here I put a lot of hot glue, and I just turn that over, and while it is still manipulatable, I just kind of zhuzh it around there, make sure that it's centered where I want it, everything like that. Now I take and blast my heat gun because that takes care of all those little hot glue spider webby things that you get. And then I'm just taking some thicker, this is twine I think I got this at Walmart. It's a little bit thicker than Dollar Tree. It's not quite a rope, but I really like the thickness of it. And I just looped that through and had it there because that's how the cutting boards come. But look at how beautiful this is. I think this is going to be so fun for Easter. It will be perfect for spring and for Easter. I just think that the bunny is adorable. Again, I'll leave that link to this printable down in my description box so you can go to the original source that I got it from and print it. But I just think this turned out absolutely darling. I have this little vase from Dollar Tree. It's so cute. It's a square shape, and I also have these little carrots that I got from Amazon. I'll leave a link to them down in my description box, but you get like 30 or more little carrots or something. They're so cute, but they do come with like a little hanging tag, almost like you could hang them from a garland or something. I tried just pulling it out, but that ripped the carrot, as you can see here. So I just decided to kind of snip that off as close as I could because I don't really need that little ribbon to hang it with. Basically, I just shove a bunch of Spanish moss down into the bottom of this vase to kind of give it a little bit of like, to prop these carrots up just a teeny bit. And I thought it kind of looked cute. It looks like a little roots maybe from the carrots growing around down there once you get all of these in. But I'm just lining all of these carrots up around the perimeter of that vase. I'm just showing you here different types of carrots that you could use to do this with depending on where you get your carrots from. You may already have some in your decor. I got these little burlap carrots off of a garland that I got at Hobby Lobby that I took apart to use. They were super cute in there, and I just love the little raffia little carrot toppers on them. I take just a little bit of Spanish moss and I just tuck it in between the space of the carrots there to kind of fill in. This is going to help those carrots stay secure, and it's also just going to add a little bit into that negative space that was there, so that way it kind of fills in and it looks full and intentional. So now I'm just taking some jute twine and I just wrap it around this little bundle of carrots 3 or 4 times, and then I just tie it off with just a single little shoestring bow. That's just so cute. The carrots look all cute and tied together there, and that helps them stay together as well, and it looks like just a little bundle of carrots from the farmer's market. I think this turns out so cute. I love using carrots in my spring and Easter decor because it does bring such a pop of that vibrant orange, and I just love the different layers of this. I think it looks so cute. Perfect to tuck on a table or a shelf somewhere. What do you guys think of it? I've been holding on to this sign since Christmas time. I picked it up at Hobby Lobby, and I believe it was even part of like their 50% off Christmas. So it was just a few dollars for this sign. And then this cute little bunny and carrot sign came from Dollar Tree this year. And this was the first year I had ever seen these signs. There's 2 different versions of it, one with a white bunny and then one with a brown bunny. And I thought with this white sign, the brown bunny would pop a little bit more. And the white bunny, I think, says like hippity hoppity or something. And this one says Happy Easter. But they're really cute. If you find them, pick them up, because I think there's so many fun different DIYs that you could do with them. But I just thought instead of having it hang the way that it came from Dollar Tree, adding it to a different sign would kind of elevate it, make it look like a little bit more like a statement piece, something that was a little bit more high end. And so as I'm laying this out on the sign here, I'm realizing that I really don't like his bow that he has on there. And so his little bow tie. So I'm going to take that off. It came off very easily. While I was at it, the little twine bow and the carrot was a little dilapidated, so I took it off as well. And then I have these little ribbon rosette things here, and so I thought they might be kind of cute on there when I opened them up and placed them on here. And I think I just got these in the wedding section, that you can see that they were on clearance there, but I was like, well, do I want 2 of them or 1, or maybe I make it like a Mrs. Bunny and place it up by the ears like a little bow. But I was kind of like, it's a little plain, even though the rosette by itself is very pretty. You know, it almost looks like it could be like his little cottontail or something, right? But I have this orange burlap ribbon here, and I thought, well, this is really cute. What if I made a little orange bow tie and then had the rosette sitting on top of it? So that's what I end up doing. I just folded the ribbon together and pinched it in the middle, and then I'm just tying it off with a little piece of jute twine. That's going to mimic that little bow shape without having to actually tie the bow. It's very easy to do, and it's very simple, and it looks just like a cute little bow there. So after I get that tied, I'll just cut those little twine tails off, and you're not going to see those at all. So you can see I'm going to do that right here. And then I'll just take some hot glue, and I'm just going to glue that little rosette right in the middle of the bow tie. I just think that those look so cute layered together, and it kind of just, I mean, he had that little bow on it. The bow was cute, so I mean, if you wanted to make it super simple, you could leave that. But doing little things like this to pieces that you get at Dollar Tree really do elevate them to a point where they're just first of all, it makes it your personality because you're creating it how you want, but it really just takes it to another level and just makes it so fun to create, because there's endless possibilities that you can do with these things here. Now for the carrot, I just took some twine and I wrapped it around like 2 or 3 of my fingers, maybe like 10 times. I kind of wanted a little bit of a thicker bow since the bunny has a thicker bow on it. And the same thing, I just tie it off in the middle just with a knot, and then you can leave the tails on this, you can cut the tails, it's up to you, but it just kind of like, you can fluff out those little loops of the twine. It just makes it look like a really nice thick bow, and I really liked how that looked. After I get the twine all tied off there, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue to put that onto the carrot. And now I want to go ahead and get these set down on our sign. So I'm just outlining our little bunny here with the glue, so that way all of the edges will be glued down nice and tight. Just make sure you get their feet really well, everything. You just don't want this lifting or peeling up at all. And then I even just kind of go through, put a little line of glue down the middle, you know, just use a whole bunch of glue there. Just, you don't want this bunny going anywhere. And then you just kind of center him up. I'm just centering the feet a little bit. Depending on the size of your sign, you may need to like trim his feet or even just like sand around him a little bit if you need to do that. that's fine too. You just want to make sure that he's not hanging over any of the edges of the sign. Now I thought it would be really cute to kind of put the happy and Easter at an angle there, kind of opposite each other, so it adds a little bit of character to the sign. But some people don't love that, so if you wanted to do it totally straight, that would be fine too. I just really kind of like the visual interest that it did. Kind of makes it look just fun and whimsical on here. Now I felt like the Easter sign was a little plain since I had the cute bow on the bunny and then I had the little twine bow on the carrots, so I added just a couple little sprigs of some boxwood on the back, a little bit of greenery. You'll have to let me know if you like this or not. I really went back and forth on it, and I kind of decided eventually that, well, everything else had something added to it, so I did it. And I kind of like how it adds a little bit of that greenery onto the sign too. And then you can see I just glued those on the back so they kind of peek out. And then we're just going to do the same process with this, just putting some hot glue on the back of it and making sure this is pressed down. And when I push these down, I hold them for just a little bit, so that way I let the glue dry before just like putting it down, lifting it up, because sometimes that the piece can still lift up if you're not letting that glue kind of dry and get that bond. But I really do like the look of how they're kind of cattywampus or ski-wampus, however you want to say it. I just thought they looked really cute there. Now this sign was originally meant to hang this sideways here like this, you can see. So I'm just taking that rope twine off at the back. I'll take the price tag off of it at this point here, and you can use your staple removers to remove those staples on the back there and that excess piece of twine so they're not on there. Especially if you're going to resell this, you're going to want to do that. And so I just want to make sure that I have the twine in the right position here to hang. So I'm just taking my ruler, and this sign was like 10 inches. So I'm just marking the middle and then going out a couple of inches on each side. So that way I know exactly where to staple the rope. That way when it hangs, it's going to hang evenly and not lean to the side or anything like that. So, and I just follow the same thing that they did. They had 3 staples in the original one. So I just went down and did the same thing. So, and I do that on both of these sides of the twine. I think this sign turned out so dang cute. I just love it. I love the whimsical feel. I love those pops of orange. I started with a great piece from Dollar Tree. If you find these signs, definitely pick them up because there's so many things. But I just think that adding it to the background like this just really takes it to that high-end level and makes it look like such a statement piece. What do you guys think of this? I am making a really cute layered sign here, and this little wood round came in a pack of 3 or 4 of them from Hobby Lobby, and it just costs, when you buy it on sale, it ends up only being $3 or $4 for all 3 of them. And I'm just staining both sides with some antiquing wax, and you kind of see I'm very liberal when I put it on and then just kind of wipe it off with a baby wipe. You could use a brush. You can stain this to be how dark or how light you want, but I just wanted a nice, good, like dark wood piece behind everything. So for the very top layer that I'm using this cute little bunny that I got at Dollar Tree, and the edges are always so rough on these that I go around and I sand the edges first, and then I'm just giving this a complete coat of white chalk paint, and then to bring out the little definitions of this cute little bunny shape, I am just going around with some antiquing wax to highlight those areas. This is one of my most favorite types of signs to make. This is I make these signs all the time for my house, and I get so many compliments on them. Whenever I do them on my channel, everybody loves how they look, and they are so fun to do. So I'm just cutting a little piece of styrofoam there to glue to the back of the bunny, and then I am going to glue it onto this wood sign, and then we're going to make some magic happen here. So using a couple sprigs or picks from Dollar Tree, and then I have this whole bag of like leftover pieces that I collect as I'm done using things that I'm pulling out to use for this. I'm just going to layer florals all the way around this thing to look like it's just poking out from underneath this bunny. So if I have like 4 of a particular type, you can kind of see how I do like top, bottom, and sides, and then I go off center, and you're just going to work your way around the whole shape of whatever you're using for your centerpiece, and you're just going to keep sticking in evenly around all the different florals. This is so fun because you can add your colors here that you want to use, and like I'm just kind of doing more purples here, and you can use like whatever your favorite flowers are or just greenery. You could even do, if you didn't want to go as far as sticking all these different ones around, you could easily put like a wreath behind. I've just had a hard time sometimes getting the wreaths to stick, and so that's why I ended up doing this method right here, and just keep going around until it looks great to you. Now I'm taking this piece of rope from Dollar Tree, and I'm I wanted to make a tag for the back, but as I was unraveling it to get a little strand of it, I thought that all the little pieces of it would make a cute bow. And so I'm going back and forth deciding if I want a Mrs. or a Mr. You'll have to wait and see what I choose there. But I take a piece of that rope and I just tie it off to make the little hanger there, and then use a lot of hot glue on the back. And then using this pipberry, you can kind of see down in the corner the roll of that I got at Hobby Lobby. It is going to last me a very long time. I bought pink and yellow. Buy it when it's 50% off. It's going to last you forever. And I am just taking this off and sticking those down in, the pink and the yellow, and kind of every other one, if that makes sense. I go with that method of doing like 2 on the sides, 1 on the top, and then turn it and kind of go on the corners there. So that way it looks like it's even all the way around. And I did just, it's wired, so I did just wrap it around like a pencil or something to kind of give it that little corkscrew shape, and I thought that was super cute. Now I'm just trying to decide if I want a Mrs. or a Mr. here. I ultimately decide that if I put it up as a Mrs., it covers a lot of the bunny shape, and I didn't want to take away from that. So I glued it down on the bottom to be a little bow tie for a little Mr. Bunny. The bow would be completely optional, and whatever your preference was. What do you guys think of this? I absolutely love this. It is such a cute little hanger. You can put this on a door. You can hang it from a peg on a shelf. You wouldn't even have to put the little hanging tag on the back. You could use this on a plate rack. I just absolutely love this. This project is really like bare minimum 2 projects in one. You could probably even say 3 projects in one. I'm just lumping them all together in this one section of the video. So I'm taking some fabric. I bought 1/3 of a yard. You can see I could easily probably get like 2 or maybe even throw at least 2 more bunnies out of it. And so I'm just tracing. This is an image. I'll leave the link to this down in my description box. I just got it off of Canva, and I'm just going to cut this out very gently to make sure we're going to make these cute little pillows out of this. I saw these in a store that I went to recently and thought they were darling, and I thought I'm going to do my best to try and recreate this. So you guys, we're going to try and do a blanket stitch. I've never done this before. So I'm using some embroidery thread, and then this is a tapestry needle. So I go through, you can see I went through the center part there, and I'm going to tuck the little tail of my thread down into here. Now I'll leave the link of the video that I watched on how to learn how to do a blanket stitch in case you really want to see a more detailed description of it, because sometimes I feel like maybe I can't articulate things like this. So don't worry, some of the next 2 do not sew. So I just really wanted to try this because the one I saw was sewn like this and I thought it was so cute. So I put my thread back through, and you just loop it through and pull it tight. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. I've slowed it down a little bit here. So that's my first stitch. So my next stitch, you can see I will come from the back and I will stick it through. And then once that comes through, and it's taking me a little bit here because I've slowed this down here. So hopefully you can see exactly what I'm doing here. So I'll pull this through, and then what happens is when you pull it, and I have my threads long because I want to go around the whole bunny. So I just pull that through there, and it leaves that little teeny loop because I don't pull it tight yet. And you just take your needle and you're just going to feed that through the needle, and then you're just going to pull it taut or tight, however, whatever the correct terminology is there. And it's going to make the cutest little stitch all around this bunny. You could easily use a sewing machine if you wanted to. I've just never done this before, and I thought it would be kind of fun. I like to challenge myself and do new things. So you go from the back, you pull your thread through, it leaves this little loop because you don't pull it tight yet, and then you feed your needle through that loop. My loop got a little tangled there, so I just straightened it out. And then I'm pulling that thread through. Now this does take a little bit of time to do the entire bunny, and so I'll kind of speed it up now and show you that, I just was showing you a progress check there of how it looks. And at first, at this point, when I looked at it, I was like, this is not going to turn out great. This is going to look like a beginner did this. You'll have to let me know at the end if you think it looks like a beginner did it or not. I'm very pleased with how it came out. But it's the same thing all around the entire bunny. You come from the back of the fabric towards you. You'll pull it through until there's that little teeny loop left. Feed your thread through that, and then pull it tight. And you just do that all around the entire bunny. You want to leave an opening at the bottom, though, because you're going to stuff it with some stuffing, obviously, because it's a pillow. Now, if you guys have done this stitch before, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly how to do this. It does take a little bit of time. I had a book going that I was listening to that I could sit here and do this, and it was honestly kind of therapeutic to do. My fingers did get a little bit of sore, so if you have like those little silicone things to put on your fingers, maybe, because it is kind of hard pulling that tapestry needle through the fabric because it's a little bit of a thicker needle and that embroidery thread is a little bit thicker. But you want to use the embroidery thread for this particular kind of stitch. Now you could easily do a contrasting. I kind of got a similar color to what my material was, but you could easily do like a contrasting one so it showed up more. I kind of got one that blended in because I didn't want it to look really bad and be totally like blaring like a different color. If it really looked bad, I wanted it to blend in. So again, just go around the entire bunny like this. So here is the opening. So we're going to take some stuffing, and I buy really inexpensive pillows that I find either at Walmart or on clearance at the craft store to cut them open to use the filling out of, rather than just going and buying the filling itself, because I feel like that's much more expensive. So I'm just using a dowel to shove the stuffing up into the cute little ears of the bunny and into anywhere that's kind of like a little hard to get to, that you want to make sure it gets filled really well. I filled this pretty good. You can kind of use your best judgment on if you want it really full and tight, like have it be a really tight plush to it, or if you want it to be kind of softer, and more, I don't know, less fluff in there. So you just use your best judgment. And once you get that completely full, then you're just going to pick up with that blanket stitch and finish it until the end. And that one I just tied a cute little bow onto. Now I'm going to show you this next step, this next one. This is called Unique Stitch, and I've done no-sew pillows out of this. I absolutely love this stuff. So I'm just going around the edge, kind of just like you're sewing, but it's with glue. And you just go around, and then I just do little sections, and then I push that down, and some will seep out, and that's okay. You'll just wipe it off with like a baby wipe or a damp cloth. And then I just go around, remembering to leave the opening to fluff it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry. So I push that all down. We're going to set that aside, and I'll come back to that one. So now I have this floral fabric, and I kind of picked all these to kind of go together. I thought they really kind of had like almost like French country vibe or like a vintage vibe. Anyhow, so I'm tracing. Remember to put your right sides of your fabric together to trace, because you don't want those tracing lines to show. Now this one I'm using my pinking shears, and I'm just going to cut around the edge with that. Pinking shears, if you're new to sewing or have never seen these, I'm sure most of you are probably like, we know what these are. But honestly, when I started sewing, I had no idea why you would use these or what the zigzags were. So it cuts the fabric in a way that the fabric will not fray. So I'm going to leave these edges raw on this one, and so this is so they won't fray. Now you could cut it with typical scissors, because pinking shears are kind of expensive, and then you could just have the fabric fray around the edge. Would be absolutely darling. So now I'm just taking some hot glue, same thing as I did with that last one with the fabric glue, and I'm just going around the edges. Now this one I'm going to leave like this. My other bunny I'm going to flip inside out and have no seams on it showing. So this one, just going around those edges. I thought these little pinking shear edges, little zigzaggy edges like this would be so cute on this one. I just wanted to do a few different styles of this particular DIY because I just thought it was so fun. And I have this little glue gun. This is not fabric hot glue. I know they make that, so you could use that. I don't anticipate these plushes getting a lot of use other than sitting like on a basket or on a shelf or something. So just leave an opening in the bottom. And then the same method, you're just going to stuff this. I use a dowel to get the stuffing all up in the ears. If you happen when you're stuffing to notice that the glue has come undone or something, just add a little bit more glue. So I just keep stuffing this bunny until, again, I just use my best judgment with how full I want it. And then you're just going to use your glue to close off that bottom gap there. And so I so apologize that I'm out of frame on this and don't show that. And then I'm just taking some of the other fabric, that little striped fabric, and I make a couple little strips of it to do a little tie, and I just fray the edges and tie that around for his little neck. I just thought that was so cute. I just love how this turns out, and I just kind of cut them off at an angle there, and I just think he turns out darling. So now we're coming back to this cute little plaid bunny here. So I just turned him what will be right side out, and so I wanted all of those seams on the inside. Now honestly, if I was to do this again, I don't know that I would use the fabric glue.
It works just fine. It's just closing it up. I end up having to use hot glue because the fabric glue, I've never really done something that was this tightly filled with the fabric glue. So, I mean, it definitely works. Just know that when you're closing it off, you're probably going to want to use hot glue. So I use a dowel to get all of like the ears poked out where they need to be, the little tail, the little front feet. So that way everything is popped out. And then same method of filling it with the plush. And then you can see what I do is I put a little bit of the hot glue. I think right here, I'm just showing that I'm closing it and I'm realizing that I can do this. But what I do is I put a bead of hot glue down and then fold the fabric kind of over itself to kind of make it look like a clean edge, not the raw edge of the fabric. And then I end up gluing those two together. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here to close this off. It ends up absolutely darling, but I would probably just stick with hot glue next time when I did it. Or maybe not do one that I turned inside out unless I was actually sewing it on a sewing machine, just because of the small intricate details. Now I took this little floral fabric and cut some strips of it to make a little scrap bow, and I just tied it off with the embroidery thread, and then I just tied it on the back of this little neck of this cute little bunny here. And then I had this little thumbtack type thing. It was like a brass tack that I had, and I just cut the little pin off the back of it and then put it on the front there. But don't these turn out adorable? These look exactly like the ones that I saw in this little boutique, and I just think they're so cute. I made them. I actually learned how to do a blanket stitch, which I've always thought, oh, I'll get around to that. I actually did it, and I'm just very pleased with how these turned out. These would be so cute to have like in a little booth if you did that. What do you guys think of these? Are these something that you would try? I know I always say I absolutely love them, but you guys, I really do. I'm so proud of how these turned out.
This is such a fun project, and you just use one of these planks from Dollar Tree, one of these signs, and you just cut them down to be about 3 inches a piece. And depending on the length of your sign, the one that I got, I was able to get 6 of these little pieces per one that I cut. So I'm just showing you that you just spray, if you want the paper off, you just spray a little bit of water on there and you just kind of work with it. I had to use a putty knife to scrape it a little bit to help get that cleared off. You can see my other 2 up in the corner there. That was from a separate sign, and the design peeled off, but it left a little bit of residue behind. That's fine because I'm going to cover them with a design. Now I have used these prints right here in an Easter banner that I made, and I love that banner so much, and I think these designs are so beautiful, and it's so fun to be able to take some images that maybe you purchased, and rather than just have a one use for them, now I have another Easter DIY that I can tie in with that. So I'm just going to be like a really messy coat on the edge of these, just a dry kind of brush, just sparse, just so it looks like these are just old pieces of scrap painted wood or something that you've had around. I do really like the feel of the kind of painted edges here, the really sparsely painted edges. I think that really does look nice, but you can just leave them the plain color that is on there, as you know, just make sure all the sides are cohesive there. So just really quickly, I go through on all of these pieces, and I do this before I put the paper on. Now this is printed on cardstock, and I printed this using my inkjet printer. Anybody can do this if you have an inkjet printer at home. And I love using this purple Elmer school glue for these projects. If you're a fan of Mod Podge and that works for you, definitely do that, because that would also work. So I give a really good coat of the glue to the block there, and then I just place this down, and I'm going to use my brayer to make sure that I get a really good bond. Now I made sure to print out 2 of each of these designs, so that way I could have one for the front and one for the back. Now you could easily take these and make them with one design on the front and then have something like, this is Easter, you could put summer on the other side, or spring, or 4th of July, whatever you wanted to do. That way you could flip these around if you had them on a tiered tray and use them for multiple times rather than setting them away, especially if they were like on a shelf somewhere that you were using just in your decor, because they're so perfect as a little shelf sitter. Then you could just flip it around for the next season or something like that. So they're very versatile, and this is a DIY that you can use for like any season, anytime, any holiday. It's so fun to do and have these here. So one thing you do want to make sure when you're doing them on the front and on the back is you just want to make sure that you glue them so they're both the same direction. And I mean that if you were to see it from the back side, that it's not upside down. I might be speaking from experience here. and have glued one. So I'm just showing you, I'm double checking that one going, oh good, I got it the right direction. But again, the same process for all of these. It's just a little bit of glue. You're going to place your picture down, make sure it's the correct direction. And then I do always just make sure to use my brayer just to get a really good bond there. I feel like that just works really well. But if you have something else that you like to use, go ahead and do that. One thing that I like to do on the edge is I just take my fingernail file and I sand the edge, and you just want to make sure you sand in the direction that is not peeling your paper up. And so each side you'll use that in a downward motion. This is going to give you that nice, crisp, clean edge. If you have another way to do this that you like to get your edges done, perfect. But I really love using that fingernail file. It really does give you that. It looks like it's customized. Plus around the corners of the paper, I like to sand just a little bit, and that way you get a nice little rustic edge to it. I'm just using a little bit of Waverly's antiquing wax right here, and I am just taking my just like a baby wipe or paper towel or something, and I'm just rubbing this onto the edge. The edge of that paper where you sanded that will soak that up really well and give this a nice finished look. This is totally optional. However, I feel like it does finish this project off very nicely and make it look a little bit more like it's not just paper onto a block. But I think these turned out so beautiful. I did a bunch of different designs of these to have, especially if you are somebody who crafts to sell. These little blocks here, I mean, you paid $1 for the little sign at Dollar Tree, but you could easily turn around and sell all of the ones that you get on your block. Maybe if you sold them in a set, you could sell it for like $15 to $20. I mean, that is a great return on your money there. But I just think they're a perfect little item to have just as a decor piece. What did you guys think of these? Did you like them? This DIY is actually a Pinterest inspired / dupe DIY. I saw this scrolling through Pinterest last year and thought, oh, this is absolutely beautiful. I love this. It would be fun to try it. And then I saw it again this year as it popped up in my Pinterest feed. And I thought, you know what? I'm really going to try this time. So I'm using a Dollar Tree cloche. And then these 3 carrots came on a garland from Dollar Tree. Now, the carrots come in the garland like you saw, but they also come in a package. They have bottle brushed carrots. There's so many different options at Dollar Tree this year as far as carrots go, but I just took 3 off of that garland. There was 6 there. Now, I really wanted to freshen up the greenery. I did not particularly care for the raffia that was there. It's cute, but I just had something a little bit extra. This is just Walmart's Boxwood, and I'm just going to cut it down to kind of be the greenery on the carrot. I like the look and feel of this much more than I do the raffia. I think it looks a little bit more tame. That raffia sometimes tends to get a little out of control there, but I mean, it still looks like a really cute carrot. You can see I just cut it down to size, and I'm just using some hot glue, and I will just push this down into the end of the carrot. It's really easy to switch this out, and I do this same thing with all 3 carrots, so that way they all match. So I'm not going to show you all 3 carrots, but I just want you to know that it's the same process that I do on all of them. Now I'm just taking some twine and wrapping it around here. This is a little bit of a thicker twine, but the thin twine that you get at Dollar Tree would work just as well. And I'm just going to tie these 3 off into a little carrot bundle here. Now I'm going to take some hot glue and put a little strip down in the center of all 3 of these carrots. And then I have another length of twine here that I'm going to place down in the center. And that's going to give me something to use to tie my carrots up with. And you'll kind of see what I mean by what I'm going to do with this here in just a moment. So you just need the twine to come straight up out of the carrots. Now I just took a tag, just a normal tag, and it was way too big for the size of these carrots. So just with my scissors, I cut it down. Then I kind of wrinkled it up to make it look aged and tattered. That's just a matter of personal preference. So if you like that, great. If not, do it a different way. But I just am taking some of my distressing ink or antiquing ink here, and I'm just using a little bit of like the yellowy color on it first, and then just a darker color over the wrinkles to kind of give it, or the little creases. Really gives a fun aged look to it. Now these are just some stamps from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut out the letters that I need. I'm going to spell bunny bait on the little tag here. And so I will be using a couple of the letters a few times, you know, like a couple of the N's and the B's and everything. But what I do is I do the letters one at a time, because this way I can space them out exactly how I want them. I got this little clear stamping block from Dollar Tree, and it's great to do this. Now on Amazon, they have some like click stamps, which is the whole alphabet, and they all click together in the words that you need. And every time I use these stamps, I think I'm really going to invest in those, I think, because these are very tedious. They're the right price point and they get the job done, but they do not store well. And it is very hard to tell what the letters are because they're clear. And so they're not my most favorite, but they got the job done. So now what I'm going to do is use the tip of my hot glue gun to put into the center point of the top of this cloche. And there's already like the little mark there for the top of the cloche there, so it's easy to kind of get the center. And I just push that down to melt that plastic away. And I'm just kind of reaching up into the center of that cloche and can tell that it's not all the way through yet. So I'll just place that center back in. And of course, you know, this is all heated up, and so it does go fairly quickly to get this done. It's pretty simple here, and then that little piece just came right out. So now I have a hole in the top of my cloche, and that's why you'll want a plastic cloche to be able to do this, because this is not going to work with glass. So I just put some twine, or not twine, but on my twine I put some painter's tape, and then I just fed that through the top of the hole there. I did have to use my tweezers to make sure it got through the hole because it was a little bit thicker. I did tie my little bunny bait sign on there, but I didn't like the way that it was falling. I wanted you to be able to read that from inside the cloche, so I just put a little dot of hot glue on the back side of that to make sure that it faced the correct direction. And now I'm just going to tie off my twine here. I want these carrots to look like they're suspended in here. And so you just want to tie them up where the greens aren't so smashed against the top, but you do have a little bit of space underneath the carrots, kind of like they're floating in there. They're tied, suspended in there. And then I cut off my twine, and I have this little finial. You can buy these in a pack at the woodcraft section at Hobby Lobby. I've seen them at JoAnns. And I did stain it with just some antiquing wax, but you could paint it a color if you wanted to match the base of the cloche. I put a little hot glue inside of that, and then I'm just going to press the knot of my twine up into that so that it hides the knot there. I've also seen the one on Pinterest had like a wooden bead that they had threaded the twine through and had the knot of the twine on the top of that. So that would be really cute as well. I just thought it would be fun to use this little finial that I had. And now on the base of the cloche, it looked a little bare in there with just the base, but it would be fine. You could definitely leave it. But I have this Spanish moss, and I just grabbed just the littlest amount. I didn't want it to be, this stuff can kind of quickly take over in a project because it's so like unruly. So I just am taking a little bit here and just kind of smushing that down into the glue. And then I'll give it a little bit of a trim here to make sure that it's not so unruly there. And then just make sure it's nice and tidy. And then I will just slide my cloche onto there and twist that back on. And I just think this makes the cutest little Easter decor, just this little bunny bait, the little carrots kind of hidden in there, you know, maybe the bunny can see the carrots and not realize they're under the cloche. And I don't know, I just thought it was really a cute idea, and I really thought it was fun. I wish I could take credit for it. Unfortunately, I didn't. I just saw it on Pinterest and thought, that's something I think I could try and do. But what do you guys think of it? I think this ended up really cute, and what a cute little shelf sitter or even a tiered tray decor item. How cute is this little wicker tray? I think this is darling the way that it is, but it is pretty beat up when you get looking at it really close. And so I'm just going to kind of clean it up and wipe it down. And I notice around the edges of the wicker that it is kind of, the paint is kind of chipped. So I just take a little white brush and go around to kind of like cover in those areas. I will distress this a little bit, but I don't really want like the brown wicker. I'm not sure if this was like painted before, like if somebody else owned it and painted over like a brown wicker or something. So I just kind of do that. And then I'm taking this is elephant chalk paint that I'm going to take on a chip brush, and I try to go in pretty light. And sometimes you guys, like, I go in and I think that I'm going to do a really light, and you can see that there's some areas on there that are really dark, but that's okay because I can go back over once it dries with a little more white chalk paint and just kind of brighten those up a little bit. And then with what is just left of the elephant chalk paint in my brush, I kind of go around the wicker there just to kind of make it look a little bit aged there. Again, completely optional how much you want to do on there. And this is where I go in with some white and I just brighten up those little dark spots that I did at the distressing. I want to use one of the Dollar Tree calendar pages on this, and it does kind of have a weathered finish to it. I'm using this one right here, this cute little bunny. How darling is this? I love this picture. I think it is so sweet. And I thought this would be really fun to kind of like put up with my cutting boards on my countertop or even in my china hutch or something like that, just kind of as a display item. I thought it would be super cute for spring and Easter. But I just think that bunny is so precious. I just love it so much. So I just make sure that the placement and everything looks good. And then if you guys have watched me at all before, you know that I love purple glue stick. I love to use it more than I love Mod Podge on these calendar pages and a lot of more heavy pieces of like paper and things, like cardstock and things. I love to use this glue stick. So that's all I'm using here. I do go over it with Mod Podge. I'll show you that in a minute. But to get it to adhere, I'm just going to rub over it with the brayer there to make sure that any bubbles or anything do get pushed out and all those edges are secure. I take my white chip brush and I go over it just a little bit to kind of make it blend in and have it have a little bit of weathered and aged look. Of course, that would be completely optional. I do wipe over this cute little bunny's eyes and nose to kind of make those show a little bit more, so that way it makes it a little bit more sharp looking. And then I just go in with Mod Podge and I go all around the base of this, and then I go around the outer part of the calendar page, and then I go over the paper itself. Hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here that I go over. And I'm doing this with a satin finish, so that way it's not super shiny or anything like that. And if there are any edges that kind of do come up a little bit just because of the Mod Podge, I just make sure I roll after that Mod Podge is dry. I will kind of push those down. But look at how cute this is. I just think this is so precious. I love this. It is perfect for spring and Easter. What do you guys think of this? Have you guys used these calendar pages like this particular one? I would be curious to know what you did with yours, but I just love how this turned out. It would also work really well on a pizza pan from Dollar Tree. So if you can't find like a tray or something like this, a pizza pan, this would be perfect for that. I have seen these little baskets several places. You can find them in the floral section of your craft store. I've even seen them like at TJ Maxx or things. You might even have one in your stash already, but to me, it was the perfect shape for a carrot. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the orange burlap ribbon that I have. I got it just at the craft store. You could use any kind of ribbon. It doesn't have to necessarily be burlap, but that's just what I found and I thought it was super cute. So I start by gluing on the bottom of the edge there, and I'm just going to do a method of kind of gluing around that bottom shape and holding that burlap ribbon into place until it dries, so I can get that nice little crisp point on the bottom. And it's like not so crisp. I mean, it doesn't have to be super perfect. But I do go ahead and kind of fold the ribbon under so that way it kind of tapers down, if that makes sense. You'll see here when I wrap this around, I end up kind of folding the bottom piece under a little bit just to make sure that it does kind of go down to a point. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. But this is just a method of wrapping and gluing every once in a while. I feel like if I wanted to, after Easter time, take this ribbon off, there's not so much glue that I wouldn't be able to do that. Once you get going, it's just a matter of wrapping this ribbon around. You can do any kind of like pattern, or you can fold the ribbon over, whatever you would like. I'll show you kind of what I do to add a little bit of texture to it since this is wired ribbon. Now I was kind of going to go up over the edge here, as you can see, but I decided not to. Instead, I just put this as close to the top there, and then I'm just going to snip it and glue it in the back. So to finish this off here, I just take a piece of burlap ribbon, enough that will stretch all the way around to the back, and I fold it over and I bring that up under. That just to me gave it a little bit more of a finished look, and I'll just hot glue that together in the back. Now to go back on all of the little layers there, I just kind of bend and crimp each of them to add a little bit of texture to the ribbon. So for my filler, I just have this greenery that I have. You can use anything, any type of plant that you wanted to use. I just thought that was really cute to kind of be the little green top to the carrot. And then I just make a little bow. I just make a loop out of some ribbon, and then I will pinch that in the middle, and I just use another little lace bow that I have from Dollar Tree to kind of make that, add a little cute texture to bows. You guys know I am not the best at bows, so I do the best that I can. So hopefully I'm explaining well what I did, because I can't tie bows. I do cut a length of ribbon and kind of bend it at an angle you can see there for the tails, and then I just kind of fold that over so the bow fits on it and glue it all together, and then I will just glue that onto kind of the side. I don't do it right in the center, I do it a little bit off side, and a bow would be completely optional. I just felt like it needed a little something extra, and I had this cute Dollar Tree ribbon and I thought it was perfect. And you can see, and I do decide that it, like the one tail needs to be shortened a little bit, so I just go back in and kind of snip that up a little bit. But I think this just turned out so cute. That little bow to me just kind of makes it. All right, did I do a good job converting this basket into a carrot? I thought it turned out really cute, and I think the Easter bunny would definitely stop at my house if this was hanging on my front door. It would be so cute, also layered with another wreath. I just think this turned out really cute. One thing that I love to make is banners. I love to have banners for different holidays. I have a couple spots in my home that I like to hang them. I know a lot of people hang them like from their mantles or things, and I thought it would be really cute to make this Eastery spring one. Now, I found these darling images on Etsy. I'll leave a link in my description box, but I just printed them out on cardstock, just normal cardstock using a regular inkjet printer, and I just cut them out, and I'm going over the edge to kind of rough the edge up with the scissors, as you saw there, to kind of give it a more natural raw look rather than just a straight cut look. Now, I have this kit that you can age things with. I got this at JoAnns a few years ago, but I have seen this brand of different things at Hobby Lobby, but I also think just like regular antiquing wax would work just as well. So just kind of use what you have. Even some like burnt umber acrylic paint, like maybe a little bit watered down with on a baby wipe, would work just fine. I'm going over the edge, and right here I'm just showing you that I am going to crinkle the heck out of this because I want all of those wrinkles. I want this to look so aged and antiqued and like it's been around for a million years. So I really kind of embrace the crumpling up of the paper here. And when you go over it with your whatever you're using to age this with, it's going to pick up all of those little crinkles and all of the bends and all of the little tears on the edge of the paper, everything. So I'm kind of going to show you here when I use this as the little stamp or ink blotter that came to age it with. But like I said, some antiquing wax on a baby wipe would do perfect for this process. But you can kind of see how you see all of those little wrinkles in that paper. It really looks like it's old, it's aged, everything like that. That was really kind of the look that I was going for. And I wanted it on both sides because this particular one is hanging on a mirror in my home. And so you're going to see the back of it. And so I wanted it to look like, you know, that it was uniform and aged on the back as well. So if your paper tears a little bit, mine tore in a couple places as I was doing this, it's totally fine. I just embraced it and knew that it just made it look aged and it looked a little bit older. Now, what I'm going to do to make these a little bit more sturdy, because they are paper, but I want to use them from year to year, I put a good coat of Mod Podge on both sides of them, and the ink is completely dry. I printed these out and I did this project the next day, so the ink from my inkjet printer had time to dry. And I go over the front and the back, and I'm using a satin finish here, I believe, but you can use any type of Mod Podge that you have. And this is going to protect the paper. If you had any like rips on the edges of your paper or anything like that, you can kind of see at the far right I had one. It kind of seals that off too. And it gives a texture to this. I wish I could describe the texture because it doesn't, I mean, it feels like paper, but it's like coated paper, kind of like coated fabric, I guess. I don't know how else to explain that. But you definitely will be able to store this and use this from year to year. Now, I have this beaded garland I got at Hobby Lobby. You could definitely make your own. I'm showing you there that you could easily just punch holes with a hole punch in there and then feed some twine through to just hang it on a twine to make it easy. But I have my tool. This is a crocodile. I'll leave a link to this so you can kind of check it out, but it does grommets and it's really good for punching holes through things. I use it on my metal. I use it through like the signs from Dollar Tree to punch holes in. But I really thought it would make this look really finished if I put some little grommets in here. And so these are just some that came with the crocodile, but you can buy the crocodile and the accessories at Hobby Lobby. I actually saw them there yesterday, over kind of by their paper crafting. And I am just you just take the grommet, you place it on the little thing there. There's like a little like nub that you put it on, and then you push down and you can see it puts that on there. I thought that just really gave this a refined and finished look. Looks high end, not like paper. And so I really like that. Now, I'm using some twine here to tie these onto my garland, but I'll show you in just a minute something that I did find that I actually think would work better. But I kind of like this because I can tie them on, and then as the seasons change, I can untie them and tie something else on. I just wanted a really rustic look. I wanted to have today's projects being the printed project, something easy that you could make really easily at home with just a printer, something you could make with your kids, your grandkids. There is the sweetest little girl that messages me and tries to recreate my DIYs. Her name is Eliana. Hi, Eliana. And she loves when I create easy projects, and this is perfect, something that she could totally create at home. Now, here's some little Christmas hooks that are from Hobby Lobby. I found them in their little clearance section. They would work perfect for this project. But look at how beautiful this turns out. I love this. I love that I can change it out for different seasons. I think this is going to be a beautiful addition to where I hang my banners. I mean, think of a cute little mantle display that you could do with this. I love this. And the paper is going to store beautifully because of the coating of the Mod Podge on it. It has such a good texture to it. It is really going to withstand the test of time. What do you guys think? Is this something that you would try? Eliana, if you make this, I want to see it.
I love using this foam core board or cardboard or whatever you have to make a cute little circle out of, to make a wreath. I'm just using a surface or a little template to trace a circle on here, and then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut around. Now, when I traced this circle, I thought I wanted a little bigger than that. I kind of wanted that as the size of the opening in the middle of my wreath, and so I'm just kind of going around it. You by all means do not need to make a perfect circle here. When you look at this, once I get this all completely cut out, you're going to think it's the ugliest looking circle. And I agree. It does not really look like a circle, but it works, I promise you. So stick with me here. Now, this is some boxwood from Walmart. It's $1.97 for a little, a pick of it. And you can honestly get so many different DIYs out of one pick. So I just cut a bunch of the little separate leaves off there, the separate little sprigs there. And what I do is I run a bead of hot glue around the outside portion of my circle. And then I'm just placing these with the leaves facing over the edge. You can see exactly how I'm doing this here. The stems are facing inward towards the middle of the wreath. And I just go around the entire thing like this. So it actually does move quite quickly if you have all your pieces cut out and everything. Now, for the inside, I just do the opposite. I put a bead of hot glue around the inside circle, and then I face the little leaves towards the inner part of the circle with the sticks facing the outer part. So you can see exactly how I'm doing that here. And then once I go all the way around this and get this all completely covered in, you go around the middle. And I just put a little dot of hot glue, and then I just face all of the leaves in the same direction going around the circle. Now, you'll get a lot of these little webby, stringy hot glue things from doing this, and so I just blast it with my heat gun here to kind of get rid of those. Just be careful not to melt your boxwood leaves, but that melts all of those little hot glue strings into, it just makes them completely disappear. Anyhow, I have this little bunny, and he came from Hobby Lobby. It was like $2.99 and then 40% off. And he's darling the way he or she, I don't know. I just assumed that the Easter Bunny's a boy, but I don't know. But anyways, I just paint it with some white chalk paint. Like I said, you could leave it the way that it was, but I wanted to kind of make it my own. So just a couple of coats on there. And then I just take a fingernail file and I sand all around the edges of this cute little bunny and to distress it. I love using fingernail files to do detail sanding like this and distressing because you can get into all those little areas. Now you could easily use some like antiquing wax or something like that and dry brush around the edges. Now these cute little windows, have you guys seen these from Dollar Tree? I feel like I've seen a lot of creators do some really, really, really cute things with them. And so I thought I would do something with this because I have a few of them in my stash. So I just whitewash kind of or dry brush some white paint on there to kind of give it a fun little aged look so it's not so plasticky looking. I glue my little wreath down there, and then I use a tumbling tower block and a couple of the little squares to get this bunny bumped out as much as I need to and just glue that on. I did wrap a little pitberry around his neck though. I just think this turns out so cute, and it'll be so cute propped up somewhere like a little shelf sitter. I just think this little bunny in that window has such a darling feel. What do you guys think of this one?
I've been loving doing DIYs with these cute little seed pots here. You can get these anywhere that you get garden supplies. I've seen them most recently at Walmart. I grabbed these at Lowe's when I was there, but these have a beautiful texture. Some of them don't maybe have as much texture as this, but it's totally fine. All you need is just something that is of this little like peat pot consistency here, almost like a cardboard. But I'm just going to give a very light coat of paint here. You can do it as messy as you want. You don't want full coverage. I'm just trying to have a contrast contrast to the brown color as well as show that texture a little bit. So that way it'll be fun to work with. We're going to do some Easter decoupage. So I have all of these different types of Easter napkins. I went to Home Goods one day and they had so many fun Easter napkins. I couldn't decide. I just kept picking one up after another, being like, I want this one, I want this one. And so I have to do some projects using all of them now because I have to justify why I bought so many napkins. But these turn out so cute, and I really can see me doing so many more projects with this. So I'm just using a little bit of water on a paintbrush to go around the design to get that cut out so that way we can put it on our pot. I use some Mod Podge and I put a little bit of that on my pot, and then I'm just going to stick down this cute little design of these little chicks here. Once I get it placed where I want it, I will go over the top again with some Mod Podge, and you can kind of see how the edge is hanging over the bottom of the pot there. That's not a problem. I'll just put Mod Podge over that and it will just be set in place. You can also put a little bit of water again on that edge if it's going up over the top or the bottom, and kind of tear it off and give it a rough little edge, but when it's folded over the bottom it looks just as cute. The fun part of this is you don't have to stick to like one particular napkin style. You can jump around from different napkins that you have that have little pieces that go together. I think I use like 3 or 4 different types of napkins on this. And the bigger the pot, the more designs that you would be able to use on your pot. So these are quite small, so it actually made it a little more manageable. That's why I decided to make 4 of them, because once I got started, I wanted different feels for all the different ones. So you can see this one, I love this cute little flower here. So I just put that little bit of water around the flower, and then I just gently, one thing I did forget to mention, I do show it, but I did forget to mention that you want to make sure napkins are like a 2-ply napkin. So you want to make sure that you tear them apart. You peel back that back white layer, or whatever color it is. There's going to be a backing on there, and so you're only working with that top layer. It's going to make life so much easier. Otherwise, what happens is it just turns into a mess because you're using that other layer and it will come unstuck, and then you get it stuck to your design. And anyway, so just remember to peel that second layer back. It really only takes like one time of making that mistake before you remember every time to peel it back. So anyhow, there's so many fun little designs here. They weren't all necessarily Easter. They were all kind of more like had a spring type of theme to them. I thought this little bumblebee one with this little vintage writing on here was super cute. And you just kind of lay it over. I mean, if you want to tell a story in your mind, like I love to come up with stories for my crafts. You guys know that that's something that I love to do. And so each little pot, I kind of had like a little theme going, or I would, think like, oh, well, this is going to have this on it. I don't know. I just was kind of going with it. And I just keep adding to it. And honestly, you can be as simplistic as you want, or you can add as much as you want. But this particular napkin had this cute little stripe on here, this little flower here. So I just put a little bit of water all along the napkin there, and I just carefully tear that. And I'm going to put a little border around the top of my pot. I thought this would look so cute and set it off. So once I tear that off, I just kind of lay that around the top of the pot, and it kind of adds that little detail. These were so much fun, and you can use your imagination. I know Dollar Tree has some beautiful napkins that you could get, and this is something that you could do for any season. It doesn't necessarily have to be for spring or Easter or anything. But I just loved these. When I saw these napkins, I was like, yes, I want these. And so I'm just showing you here really quick, just a couple of the others, I won't go into detail on each of these other pots that I do, but I'll just show you a couple of little things here. Now, the fun thing is you can decorate these however you want as far as putting things in them. If you want to put just like a little cute potted plant in there, just an artificial one, that's perfect. You want to actually use them to grow like your seeds from, how darling would that be? So many cute little things that you could do. I love this little bunny on this one. Isn't that so precious? I thought it was so cute. But there's so many different things that you can do with these. I'll show you what I ended up putting in them in the final reveal here. But you're limited only to what your imagination can think of. Now on this one, the bunny was too big for the pot, but I didn't let that stop me. I just bent its ears over and went with it. You can still tell that it's a bunny. I still thought it was really cute. And then I just Mod Podge it down and go with it. I thought it was, I loved this little bunny. I'm really happy with how these all came out. As you can see, I put a little nest in one of them, a little floral arrangement in one of them. I got some raffia and made like another little nest with an egg in that one. And then those little carrots I thought were absolutely darling in that Peter Rabbit one. I thought that was just so cute. What would you put in your pots if you made them? Can you think of something different that you would do? I personally love how these turned out, and I'm so excited to use them. In my shopping around online for Easter decor, I have seen a lot of bunny topiaries for like your front porch, and I thought it would be super cute to make a little miniature version. I am just using these already made moss balls that I got in the floral section at my craft store, and I just need 2 of them. They came in a package of 4, and I'm just taking a little teeny pot from Dollar Tree and I'm just shoving some Spanish moss down in there. That's going to give something for my little skewer here to like stick into. So I just take a barbecue skewer and I am just going to put the top and the bottom onto that. So that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. And then I'm just going to cut that little skewer down to size. There was a little bit peeking out of the top there. So I'm just doing that, and I'll pull that top layer up so you can't see that at all. For the ears, I'm just using some burlap ribbon, and I just do my best to freehand the shape of an ear. I leave it a little wider at the bottom because I need to fold these in. Once I get a shape that works, I just use that as a template to cut my second ear out. Now, how I get this to be folded so it's an ear and it looks cute, you can see how that is there. I'm just going to take the inside portion of the ear that will be facing me, and I fold the edges backwards. So I put a little glue and I fold those edges backwards. So you can see exactly how I do that. And I'll just add a little teeny dab of glue there, fold that back. Okay, so there we go. You can see how I fold that in to make that little crease in the ear, and then I just put a skewer in there and glue that together, and that's what makes a really cute like tuck in the ear, so that way it looks like an actual bunny ear. And I do the same process with the second ear. Honestly, I feel that this is very forgiving, this process right here. So if you feel like this is intimidating at all, honestly, cut sort of the shape out of an ear and just kind of start gluing it to the skewer. It's going to work out. I was pretty skeptical, but really as I was doing this, I was like, you know what, like it's very forgiving. And as long as you get that general shape of an Easter bunny ear, I think you're doing good. So after I get those edges tucked back, then I just put glue in the middle, lay that skewer down in, and fold those sides over that. It really is so easy, guys. And then since I left the skewers a little bit longer, I will go in and trim those down so that way I can have them to stick in. So here I'm just going to cut those down, and you just push those right in. They stay very firmly in there. You could add a little glue if you wanted to, but it was fine. Now they sell these at Hobby Lobby. These are like napkin holders, so you could easily get something like that to use. And I'm just going to tie just a very simple little bow around our bunny to define between the body and its head. And then I'm going to use what I always use, purple glue stick, just to give a little bit of stick onto that ribbon so it's not kind of sticking out. I thought it would be cute more to have it on its body, so that's why I did that. This would be so perfect for a tiered tray, just a shelf, anything like that. I think this turned out darling. I love the size of it. It is much better to fit into my home and my decor. I absolutely love how this turned out. Do you think it turned out cute? This project is just made using some of the paint stir sticks that you get just at the hardware store, and also a couple of eggs from the Dollar Tree in the little pack that they come in. So I am cutting the paint sticks down the smaller size to 8 inches, and then I have these 2 larger paint sticks that I am not going to cut down at all. I'm just going to leave them that size. And I cut 4 of the 12-inch paint sticks down to 8 inches. I hope that makes sense. And then I am just gluing them like crossbars, almost kind of like a ladder that I'm making here. I just thought this would be kind of cute to hang these little eggs from each of these little rungs here. So I'm just using some wood glue and a little bit of hot glue to give them that long-term and short-term hold there. I will completely paint this in white chalk paint. You can paint it to whatever color matches your decor. Now I'm moving on to printing on tissue paper. So I have done this before and I absolutely love it. And I just take a piece of tissue paper, I cut it down to the size of just a regular size of copy paper, and just tape the edges. Now, not all of the edges need to be taped, but you need it to be enough that it will go through your printer, and you just print directly onto the tissue paper, and it comes out so pretty. So I just had those little graphics in egg shapes, and I will leave the link to where I got those. It was provided by the Graphics Fairy, so I'll leave the link to those if you want to print these out. Now I just go around and sand all of the edges of our little piece there, so that way it can have a distressed look. And then I'm just carefully going to cut each of these out on the tissue paper. Now I probably didn't need to be quite as exact as I was, because I will sand the edges, but I'm just cutting them down, and I'm just going to use some Mod Podge to get these to stick on. Now it can be any kind of Mod Podge. It doesn't have to be the satin, the matte, or the glossy. It really is just to get these to stick. So I painted on very thin, and then I just used my finger to press that in to make sure that it is completely adhered everywhere. Now I didn't mind if there was wrinkles in the tissue paper because it will have a tendency to wrinkle a little bit. I just thought that added an aged look. So just be aware of that. This one I kind of didn't get it centered a few times. It took me a few times. You could see I could kind of peel it up and work with it a little bit there. Just go slow and be gentle because it is tissue paper and it can rip, but you do have a little bit of like space to work with, if that makes sense. So I just do the same technique on all 3 eggs to get those images on there, and then I take my fingernail file, so whatever you use to sand with, and in a slow downward motion I just go around the entire egg just to get all of that excess tissue paper off, and it's going to make it look crisp and clear. Now after all of the Mod Podge has dried underneath that tissue paper, I go back in with a very thin coat on the top. This is just going to protect that image so it doesn't get damaged in any way, or if water were to splash on it, depending if I keep it in my kitchen or anything, it's not going to harm the ink that's on there. Now on each of these little slats, I am just going to tie a little bit of twine. I wrap it around several times, and then I am just tying it off in a knot. And then these eggs come with a hole already punched in them. And to get that with the tissue paper, I just poked like a little end of a paintbrush through so that way I could feed my twine through. And I just tie it off, and then I will just cut off the back side of that. And then you can see how each of those look now they're on there. And I did just do a little bit of a finger twine bow that I put on the top of each of the eggs. I thought that added just a really cute little element. And again, I love twine, so that's totally optional. Now I have these little half beads that I had stained with antique wax, and I thought that they looked super cute on all the little like joints, almost like it's covering like a nail head. It's completely decorational, total optional step. I just thought it added a little bit of extra something to it. And then I just dry brush over each of them to brighten them up a little bit. Once you stand this up, as you can see, those eggs look so cute just hanging there. I love how this turned out. It's perfect for like a backsplash in a kitchen to rest it against that, or on a shelf somewhere. What do you guys think of this? I love how it turned out. This hanging egg came from Dollar Tree, and it has this beautiful like wood grain almost to it. So I took the little hanging twine off, and I just used a little plaster to fill in that hole. And then I am just taping off I want to do like a little ticking stripe on here. So I tape off the middle stripe there, and then I just using a little bit of paint, pounce on all of the edge of the painter's tape there, and go up that. And then once I have the edges done, I will fill in the middle. And then I am just using a little bit of, and I always say this wrong, and everybody always tells me it's washi tape or washi tape. I'm not sure, and I'm sorry, I probably butcher it every time, but I just use that to make a crisp line so that way I can have my negative space. Hopefully that makes sense. You can kind of see what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to use that little pounce method to paint in the little sides of the ticking stripe. And now for the very satisfying feeling of peeling back that tape and seeing all of your stripes that you painted turned out and there's no bleed through or anything like that. That is absolutely the best when you're crafting. I'm sure if you've done stripes before, you know what I'm talking about. I have this cute little bunny from Hobby Lobby. I was just there yesterday and still saw them in the store, so hopefully yours has some too. But any bunny that you have would absolutely work to do this. I'm just using some little wooden discs that I glued onto the back of the bunny, and I'll put the glue onto those. That's going to give it a sturdy hold with that galvanized metal, and it pops it out like a three-dimensional look. It makes it look much more high-end than if it was just flat on there. And I'm just making a little finger twine bow. I thought it looked really cute to add that on there. Again, you guys know how I am with twine. I just love it. So, you know, whatever kind of bow you would want to make, if you wanted to put it up by the ears, make it a little Mrs. Bunny instead of a Mr. Bunny, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to tie off the middle of the twine though, and then I will just glue that bow right onto his neck for his little necktie. Now you could glue some twine on the back if you wanted to hang this somewhere or rest it against something. I wanted it to stand up on its own, so I am just taking 3 tumbling tower blocks and gluing them edge to edge. And then I will take some glue and glue that on one of the other edges of this, like the end, and then I will glue it onto the back of my egg, and I will kind of prop my egg up so I can make sure that it's not going to be leaning forward or tipping over or anything, and let that dry just a little bit. And then I actually go back in and put hot glue on the top of those, and I glue 3 more tumbling tower blocks on in the opposite direction to make it just a little bit more sturdy. Hopefully that makes sense and you can see what I did there. Here's this little egg. It is so cute. I feel like it is very like French farmhouse. I absolutely love this. It's so simple. That little pop of purple gives it the perfect little Easter touch and little pop of color. Let me guys know what you think of this down in the comments.
This is more of a hack than a DIY, but it's still a lot of fun and it's really cute. So you should definitely give it a try. So I'm just taking a floral arrangement that I already have. This is one I did last spring, and I'm just taking it out of the tin that it was in and put it in something a little more Eastery looking. But this is just a plant from IKEA. You could just use something like that or something you have laying around your house, like a little greenery or floral arrangement. And we're just going to kind of give it a little Easter. We're going to give it some bunny ears here. So this is just a headband from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut up the center like on the inside of this headband to kind of peel back this little fur that's on here because we want to get to those ears. Now you could just slip this down in as it is into your plant, but I noticed that when I did that, the ears kind of seemed far apart and they didn't look the greatest. So once I get the fur removed, it's just from the headband I'm removing the fur. The ears, you just keep the fur intact on those. And I cut that in half, and then I'm going to overlap. And you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to place a little bit of hot glue here. And then when you glue these, obviously you're just going to make sure that your ears are facing the same way and overlapping that center piece there. That's going to move your ears closer together, and in a kind of a smaller plant like one of these, it's going to make it look much tidier and kind of much more like bunny ears, whereas the other one, it looked a little awkward to me, and so that's why I decided to go to this trouble. So this is, just know you could stick it in the way it is, but if you want it to look a little bit better, go ahead and do what I'm doing here. Now this is just going to cover up that blank, like not blank, but the little area that I cut. You can see that on the headband, so we're going to put that fur back on, and it's just using a little bit of hot glue around the ears, and I'm just going to push this in, and I'm going to do the same thing on the back side as well. So I'm just going to glue underneath to make sure that that fur is all nice and tidy tucked in. This is just covering that area on the headband that we just cut. Now these work so well because the ears have like these nice little like plastic pieces going up to help them stick upright, which is perfect for this, so that way they're not going to droop or anything like that. You can see I just turned the ears over, and I'm doing the same thing on the back, just using a little bit of hot glue around the base of those ears, and you just cut a piece of the fur that's going to be big enough to kind of cover that spot. This is mostly going to be tucked down in your plant, so you're not going to see it, but just on the off chance anybody does see it, you don't want any of those like cut plastic pieces there or anything. We want it to look as nice as we can. So then again, I'm just going to make sure that all of those edges are glued down here before we go ahead and stick this into the plant. So once this is done, I'm just going to squeeze the edges together here and just kind of to make it a little bit slimmer. And you just kind of start maneuvering your plant and everything and sticking this down in right in the center. This is just such a fun little touch to bring something that's kind of Eastery in. And I mean, look at how cute those ears are. Now you can imagine they look kind of far apart as they are right there. So if you were to leave them even further apart as the headband traditionally came, they would be even more far apart. So it just depends maybe on the size of your plant, but I just think this is such a fun way to tuck in a little bit of Easter and bring that fun kind of whimsical look in. I love the little gingham check on these ears. I think this turns out so cute, and it's such a fun little hack.
I have acquired some different mason jars, different shapes from different eras, and I love to use them in decorating. Now, if you don't have any of like the antique mason jars or anything, that's totally fine. You can even just use a regular clear mason jar or any other kind of like vessel that you want to put flowers into. But I'm just cutting a piece of cardstock down that will fit into the middle and making a tube out of it. And I just use hot glue and tape. Now, if you have a paper towel holder that you want to use to do this, that would be perfect. I just didn't have a paper towel holder and I didn't want to take all my paper towels off of it. So I just thought, you know, I'm just going to make a little tube and do my own, and it worked out perfect. So I just slide that down in, and then I just add the candy around it. I'm doing some little jelly belly or jelly beans here, and then I just have some little bouquets of flowers, but you could use Dollar Tree flowers, you could use whatever you wanted. So I do one of each size, so that way I have one of my smaller jars and one of the taller jars. And at our house, we love to do the jelly beans, but we also love those Cadbury chocolate eggs. Those are my favorites. How about you? Do you have a favorite Easter candy? I mean, I like most candies, so I'm pretty easy to please, but let me know down in the comments what your favorite Easter candy is. I would love to see all of the different types that you guys all like. So with the smaller jar that I did with the jelly beans, I was able to just slip the tube in and pour the jelly beans around that. Where this jar is a little bit taller and I feel like the mouth, it was just a little bit more awkward than the smaller one. So I put my flowers in there and then poured the candy in around it. So either way is totally good. Didn't these turn out so cute? I just love them. It's such a great hack to have for different holidays, to do different types of seasonal candy and everything in them. And they're so fun. And plus you have a little bit of a hidden treat that you have if you need some chocolate. So I have tried this technique before and I absolutely love it. We are going to print on some tissue paper. So I'm cutting just a normal piece of tissue paper to be just smaller than a regular size piece of copy paper. And I'm going to put that shiny, smooth side of the tissue paper down towards the paper and then just tape down all sides with whatever tape you have. I just have painter's tape on hand there. But you just want to make sure all the tissue paper is taped down and you'll feed it through your printer just like normal paper and the image prints right on the tissue paper. Now, as I'm cutting this out, I just want to let you know that the ink will kind of bleed through to that copy paper, so just be aware of that. I found this darling little flower bucket at Dollar Tree this week, so hopefully you'll be able to find them, but I thought it would be fun to give this a really cute pastel blue color for spring, and I'm going to make some faux rust. So I use baking soda along with like a brown color, like a truffle. I use Merlot, a little bit of yellow, and then like the pumpkin orange. And I just get a mixture of all these colors going together and keep adding baking soda, which gives it texture, until I get the color that I think resembles rust the most. You want to be very sparing with the yellow, but I promise you the yellow is what makes this, because when you look at things that actually rust, it will have like the different variations of colors. So once I get this on my brush, which it's quite thick because of the baking soda, I just kind of dab it in. You can see how I'm going all over there. And you just do that until your heart's content with how much rust you want on your project. Now with this tissue paper, I'm just taking a brush with some water and going around the design. And then I will just lightly pull apart the tissue paper to kind of give it a torn look. So instead of a clean cut line with scissors, it's kind of more torn and like natural looking. Now using matte Mod Podge, I'm just putting a layer down on my bucket where I want the front to be, and just kind of do a very thin layer of it. And then you're going to take and I'm just spreading it so it's even. You're going to take your image and you're just going to lightly press it down starting in the middle and then just lightly press, because the tissue paper will tear once it gets a little bit of moisture on it. So you're just going to lightly press. And if there's any bubbles, you just kind of lightly smooth those out. This is very sped up of how I did that. So just know you're going to work a little slow. And then I take the matte Mod Podge, and right now I'm just going around the edges to make sure the edges are all down. And then after I have that, I will go over very lightly with a very light coat of Mod Podge over the design. And then to make that image kind of blend in a little more, I take and dry brush some of the original blue color over the top of the design. Now, if you did this on a white bucket, if you'd painted it white, that image would completely disappear and you would not be able to see the part of the tissue paper at all. And it picks it up kind of in the light on camera, the tissue paper, but honestly, when you're looking at it with like your naked eye, you can hardly see that it's tissue paper. But I love this design. I just threw some of my peonies left over from one of my wreath projects and put in there, and I think this looks so beautiful. That rust looks so natural to me. It looks like it's been sitting out in your garden like all winter long. You forgot to bring it in and it just kind of rusted. I just think it's so spring and so cute, and I love this color. Let me know what you guys think about that rust down in the comments, if you like it or if you're not a fan.
This process is one of my most favorite to work and create with. We're going to print on some tissue paper. Now you just find some leftover tissue paper that you have. You can buy new ones, whatever, just save some tissue paper when you get some gifts. But what I'm going to do is just cut it a little bit larger than the size of just a normal sheet of paper. I'm doing this because I do have a bigger image that I want to print on, and so I want to fold over that tissue paper onto the edge of my paper. And I'm just taping it down with some regular Scotch tape. I have used painter's tape in the past, just anything, because you don't want any edges to snag in your printer. Now I use just a regular inkjet printer. You can use, I for years have had just like the little cheapy printer from Walmart, like an HP. It was like $60. I've recently upgraded
I have done these projects with my cheapy printer though, so do not feel like you have to go out, have anything special other than just your normal printer at home to do this. So as you can see, I'm just taping all of those little areas down on the tissue paper. Now, when you fill the tissue paper, there's a shiny side and there's kind of a dull side. I like to print with the dull side up, so I like the image to go onto the dull side. So you can just see here, this is just my regular inkjet printer. It just feeds that through and it's going to come out with that image printed on the tissue paper. Now, sometimes you'll get a little bit of an ink bleed like you see right here. That's totally fine. It didn't hurt the image or anything. If I've never actually had one that's hurt the image, but if you would, I mean, just reprint it again, it's going to be fine. So I'm just going to remove the tissue paper from our normal piece of copy paper that was just regular copy paper. And I have this cutting board here that is a circular shape. Now you could use, this is from Dollar Tree. You could easily use something like that around that you can get there. You can get cutting boards really anywhere anymore, I feel like, or you could just do it on any type of surface. But I really just liked the cutting board. I like to stack them kind of in my china hutch in my kitchen. So I gave it a whitewash kind of with a white wax was what I did on the wood because I wanted this design to show up. You could paint your surface white to have this image show up really well. I would stick with light colors like that. And I'm just using some water on a paintbrush and I'm just going to go around this entire image here and we're going to tear the image out of the tissue paper. That's going to give you like more of a raw or natural edge. So that way it's going to blend into your surface when we adhere it to it. So you're not going to have like a really crisp line. And so I'm just using some regular Mod Podge. You can use whatever finish you would like. I think this is satin or matte that I'm using. It really doesn't matter. It just kind of is a matter of personal preference or what you have. But I cover the entire surface with a light coat and then I just gently press my image down and I am just working from the center. And this is sped up a little bit here, so I'm not working quite this fast. But I just go a little bit from the center and work my way out, as you can see. And I just, if there's any wrinkles or bubbles or anything, I just lightly press that down. Sometimes if there's wrinkles, you just might have to embrace them because you don't want to tear your image at all. And it's totally fine. Trust the process. It's going to look fine in the end. And I just go around all of the edges to kind of make sure that those are all down. After I have let this sit for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I come back with some Mod Podge to go on around the edges is where I put it first, just to make sure that those are all sealed down, and then I go over this entire image. Now, I do want to stress that if you just printed this out and you're doing this, let it dry for at least an hour or so. Let the ink dry before you put the Mod Podge on the top of it, or the ink will smear. So just be aware of that. And now I think it's really cute to just put a little bit of twine, embellish this a little bit. So this is just a thicker rope twine that I got at Walmart. Regular twine that you have will work. I just kind of like this thicker when I'm wrapping it around like this. So I just tied it off around the neck of the cutting board and then I just kind of bring it around. You can see here. So there's several ways to do this. This is just the process I chose on this one. And I'll just put a little bit of hot glue right here and that will keep that twine down on the back of that. Now I have these little carrots. I got a bag of them at Hobby Lobby. I thought they were super cute. They're a little bright. So I was trying to decide as I was doing some things here if I was going to use them. So right here I'm just sanding the edge of my cutting board because I felt like I wanted to soften it a little bit. So that's just dependent on your surface. Now I tie these on here and these little strings, and I decided I'm going to try to put these carrots on here. So I put a little hot glue in the middle of their greenery there and just kind of stick them onto the ends of the twine here. And I really actually like the way it came out. I wasn't going to put them on there, but once I did, I thought it was just the perfect little embellishment. I think this turned out so cute. It's something that looks so professional and high-end. Looks like you bought it in a store, I think. I'll leave the link to the image down below in my description box so you can see where I got that. But what do you guys think of this? Do you like this process? Have you tried it yet? If not, I highly recommend it. This darling little drawer or box came from Hobby Lobby's clearance, but there are so many little boxes at thrift stores that you could find, or anything that you may already have. This would be so easy to do. And I did get these eggs just at the craft store, and I'm just taking the little ribbons out of them. Now you could leave them the plaid and that would be super cute, but I kind of wanted to go with a more neutral tone. So here it's showing you how you just heat these up. They're styrofoam. Those ribbons come right out. I'm putting these eggs on a little skewer into some styrofoam here, and I'm going to take them out into my garage and spray paint them. And then I am going to give them some different colors here. So this one I'm doing kind of in like a gray. I think this is the mineral color by Waverly's chalk paint. And I just give it a couple of coats to have it look like more of a natural egg. This other one, the paint that I ended up using, it was a spray paint, ended up being very close to the color of the box itself. So I'm just going to brighten it up a little bit. So I'm just taking a little bit of like a cashew color or kind of a yellow color to go over that egg. And then I'm also using a light gray. This is the Silver Lining by Waverly's chalk paint. And I'll just go over that. And then I actually, once I get that on, take a wipe and kind of blend it together. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing. This, of course, would be completely optional. The only reason I did this was because that egg was very close to the same color of my box and I wanted a little contrast. But once I did it, I actually liked the way that it looked. So I did the same thing on the other egg. Now I'm just taking a square of styrofoam and I'm just going to cut it in half and glue it into the bottom of the box. To cover the styrofoam, I'm just using some Spanish moss, and I will just take a skewer and kind of tuck it down on all the sides. You will not end up seeing the Spanish moss after I get everything put into this little box, so I just wanted it tucked down in. It just needs a surface to do what I'm going to do. So now I put some skewers on the bottom of these eggs, and then I just place them right into the styrofoam. I do one kind of at an angle, that gray one, and then the blue one is more kind of standing up straight, maybe a little bit askew, if that makes sense. Now I'll just take some little green reindeer moss and I am just going to go place this in all around these eggs, all over this box, as if these eggs were sitting on grass. And if there's any hard to reach places or anything, I just use that skewer to kind of help tuck it down in there. That skewer worked great for that. So I have a bunch of succulents that I have picked up just over at Dollar Tree. It's something I pick up all the time when I am there. I'll grab a couple of them, or I also order some of them off Amazon. I can leave a link to those down in my description box too, because they are just a little bit more expensive than what you would pay at Dollar Tree, but the quality is so much better. But I'm just kind of playing around, tucking some succulents in all around the eggs. I'm just doing like a dry fit right now before I start gluing them in, and after I figure out where I want everything, I'll start using some hot glue to get those put in there so that way they won't move anywhere. And since the succulents is a little bit heavier, you just want to make sure that when you use your hot glue, you kind of hold it until you know that it's not going to like fall or like tilt a direction. That way you can make sure it's nice and sturdy. I even have these little teeny succulents that I glue in kind of as a space filler, and if I need to go in between those eggs or anything like that, I just use my skewer to kind of put those in. Now, I look at these eggs and realized I wanted to do like a speckled effect on them, so I just removed them from their little skewers, did a little antique wax with some water here, and this brush probably was not ideal. You want like stiff bristles on a brush to do this, but this got the job done. I just kind of flicked it. This does make a mess, so just know that this kind of goes everywhere if you want to lay some like newspaper down or something while you're doing it. But you just kind of dip it in that little antique wax and then just kind of flip the bristles back, and it will just put those little speckles all over the eggs. I just thought that was cute. I kind of like the way it looked, but I just placed those eggs back, and here we go. I think this is absolutely beautiful. Guys, I've seen little arrangements like this online and they go for so much money. I think this turned out so beautiful and so high end, and it's something you could truly leave out all spring.
So I have a book that I got at Dollar Tree, and I just ripped a few pages out of that, and I'm just going to fold them in an accordion file to give a little texture. And then I had my pinking shears out for another project I did, and so I'm just using that because I thought that would be fun texture. But obviously rip them, cut them with whatever scissors you have, whatever, to make some little strips of paper. I just thought that the little strips of the book paper would be really cute with this DIY. Now I have this little hanging tin basket that I got. I showed this in my Dollar Tree haul video a little bit ago, and you guys all loved it and were excited to see what I did with it. So here we go. So I crumpled up some pages to put in the bottom to kind of fill in the bottom of that, and I glued those in, and then I put a little bit of glue on the top and then just shoved some of those strips of paper in. I did that a couple of times to make sure the strips of paper were in there. They're not going to fall out all over my home, or if I was to sell this, I wouldn't obviously want that paper falling out. So I have this napkin, and it came from Hobby Lobby. I did a cute little Easter decoupage project in one of my other videos that this was left over from. So I'm just using some water on a paintbrush, and I'll just kind of tear around the edges here to give kind of that natural torn look to that. I just thought that this image was so cute and really looked like French country vintage something, so I really thought this would be darling. So on the front, I just did some Mod Podge. That's what I put on the front of the basket there. And then I'm just lightly pressing this down. It is a napkin, so you want to be very delicate with it because it can tear very easily. And then I just go around all of the edges with some Mod Podge, as well as once I do that, then I go over the entire image. That's going to seal the image. It's going to make sure that it's not going to like rip or tear. It's going to be sealed to that tin permanently. But I just thought this was, I don't know, I loved it. I thought it was so cute. Now I found this image on Pinterest. I'll link the website I got it from. It was a free image I ended up printing out, and if you see it in some more videos, it's because I absolutely love it. So I printed it out in 3 different sizes. So I'm just tearing the edge to give it a really, I just wanted a really worn vintage feel to this. And I have this little aging kit that I got at JoAnns, but you could easily use some like antiquing wax or some brown paint to kind of go over this to age it. I crumpled it up and I kind of just put this all over it to make it look really old. I even went on the back because all the time I have people say, well, what about the back? I got the back, you guys, don't worry about it. Anyway, I also go over this front image with the bee on there because I wanted to age it to match a little bit more. So I stick this little postcard down in here off to the side, and then when I get it fixed where I want, I just run some hot glue there. Just be very careful not to burn yourself with the glue. I kind of did that. And then I have this darling little duck, and it came from Hobby Lobby, and it was $2.99 and then 40% off. But I just thought that he was so cute, and so I'm just putting some little glue on the feet there to hold him down. And then I will also, you'll see me go in and put a little glue on the wing to kind of glue it to the front there. I just thought that little pop of yellow was so springy and Eastery. I thought it was really cute. Once I got that in there, I did need a little bit of something extra, so I cut these little greenery sprigs here, and I'm just going to glue them behind the little duck there, back by the postcard. And then I also take a little bit more greenery here, and then I just stick this over on this side there, and I just thought that looked so cute and so Eastery. Now, if you were going to set this up somewhere or something, you could put the handle down. Obviously, if you're going to hang it, you want that handle up. And so I wanted to age this. Once I got this all done, I looked at the tin. I'm like, the tin looks kind of stark. It needs to look a little older. So I just took some burnt umber on here, and you can kind of see on that handle how it does look just like the handle's rusted. And I go around like all the joints on the basket, on the lip. I even turn it over and go on the back of the little basket so that way it's aged and looks really old. You guys, isn't this the cutest thing ever? I just think this turns out so sweet and so cute. And it's that perfect little vintage pop of Easter that you'll have in your little Easter decor that's kind of just that treasure when you find it. I just think this turned out so cute. So let me know your thoughts on this one because I absolutely love it. This is such an easy project to do, and I got inspiration for this off of Pinterest, and I saw somebody make carrots out of clothespins, which I thought was a brilliant idea because when you take the clothespins apart and place the flat ends together, they literally look like carrots. So it's brilliant and I love it. So you're just going to do that to however many carrots you want in your box. Just use some hot glue to glue those together. You could use wood glue if you wanted a really strong bond, but these carrots are not going to be doing that much other than sitting there, so hot glue should work just fine for you. I did paint the carrots with an orange color, and then I am taking just one of these little crates from Dollar Tree and I am just painting it in a green color. I have loved this color for springtime, and I think it contrasts really well with the carrots, but you could customize it to whatever you would like to do. Now I'm just taking some of the grass from the floral section at Dollar Tree, and I am just cutting it off at the end, and that is what I'm using for the little greenery on the bottom of the carrot. Whatever you have that you would like to use, I know carrot greenery does not traditionally look like this, but it works for the color and whatever, so you can use whatever you would like. But I'm just taking the little end there and I'm just putting a little hot glue, and then I will just carefully place that onto the top of the carrot, and I'll just hold it into place until it dries. And I'm just going to do that with all of my carrots. Using my Cricut, I just cut out this little bunny bait little box here. It has this little bunny. It says 5 cents or something on it. I just found it on Cricut Design Space. You would not have to do this. It would be completely optional. You could even just use a Sharpie just to write something cute across the front of it. You wouldn't even have to make it like bunny themed for Easter, since if it's going to be like springtime, you could just do something, just carrots 5 cents or something like that on it. But I also take some antiquing wax and just go around the edge and on all those little ridges in that crate just to kind of age it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to peel off my stencil, and it is a very rustic look, and so I'm not super concerned about how well the transfer turns out. Just so you can see it, it kind of just adds a little decorative touch onto the front. I just glue a couple pieces of styrofoam into the bottom. That is where your carrots are going to be placed. And then I just kind of spaced out the carrots to begin with and made little holes in the styrofoam so I knew how far apart to space them. And now I'm just sticking a little bit of glue down in each of those little holes I created in the styrofoam and placing each carrot in there, and hold it up until it dries, because styrofoam and hot glue, you know, the combination kind of melts the styrofoam. So if you hold it until it dries, you'll get a very firm hold in there. And then I just take some Spanish moss. I put a little bit of glue down so that Spanish moss stays nice and tucked down in there. And then just using a barbecue skewer or a dowel or something, I just put that little Spanish moss in between each of the carrots, kind of cover up that styrofoam, and then just to add a little bit of texture to it. I think it just turns out so cute, this little box of carrots here. It is so perfect for springtime, or just to have that nice pop of orange in your decor. I picked this little tray up at a garage sale or yard sale, and it looks like there's been several different like DIY projects done with it or something. I mean, the back was one color, the top clearly had these painted stripes on it. So we're going to make it over to be an Easter tray. And I started with giving it a couple coats of a brown paint here. You can do any color you wanted as the base. We're going to use this crackle finish here to make this have a really fun crackle texture to it. And so whatever your base color is, when the cracks appear with your paint, that's what color is going to show through. So you could do, you know, use your imagination. The end is limitless of what you decide to do. But I really liked this brown color, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. So I just put a thin coat of this crackle coat all over, and I do the inside of my tray and the outside of my tray. And then the trick is to let that dry completely. Let it sit for an hour or two if you can. And then I'm going in with my top coat, which I'm just using a white. And the trick to this is the reaction starts happening very quickly when you start painting. So you want to be very careful to not go over and disturb the paint that you've already put down, because once that reaction starts happening and you go over it, it starts to like slide the paint off. I actually end up doing that here in just a moment, so I'll show you in just a second kind of what I'm talking about. There is a fix for it, but it's just kind of annoying to have to go over and do that process. So if you can, just work really quickly with your coats of paint here. You can kind of see I'm getting all the edges here, but just once your paint's down, you're kind of done. You don't go back over that area again. You maybe have like a 10-second window to go back over it, but just try not to do it. But I go all over the entire tray. Now see down here, I had gone over it and that paint just starts to slide off of there. So the reaction had started happening. I went back to kind of touch up a little thing, and even with my brush, I'm like, well, what if I do it this way? No matter what I do, it just keeps getting worse and worse. It starts to get clumpy, things like that. You can kind of see. So I'm like, dang it, what am I gonna do? So the best thing to do is stop at this point and just leave it, and then let it dry completely. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go back in with that base color and just go over that area. So you can just see I'm getting that brown, and I'm just going to go over that little spot that I kind of smudged up there. I'll just do the process all over again. So I'll just let that one little spot of the brown paint completely dry once I get that done. And then I'm going to go in with my crackle coat here and go over the top of that, just the same as before. And then it blends in perfectly. So, and then I just go in with my coat of paint after all these have dried. And then it's just going to, and then you just kind of stop and be like, okay, I'm done. I'm watching this making myself nervous. Like, why am I painting more on it? But you just want it to kind of be done. It will crackle. I dry it here, and you can just see it will blend in perfectly with everything. That's what is kind of fun about this process, is it can be forgiving. It's just annoying when you have to do that. So now today's the day, you guys. You guys have been telling me for months now to try this decoupage technique where I use my little heat press or an iron to get my tissue paper design to adhere. Today's the day we're going to try it. So I just take a piece of tissue paper and I cut it a little bit larger than my sheet of paper so I can tape it on the back like this. Now that's because I want my design to be printed as big as it can. So I'm wanting the front side of my tissue paper to not have any tape or anything on it. And I'm just showing you with painter's tape, but you don't have to use painter's tape. You can use Scotch tape.
but we're going to feed this through my printer and print a design on it. And so you just want to make sure that all of your edges are completely taped down, that there's not going to be any flaps, because if anything catches in your printer, it's going to tear the design. So just make sure that there's no like loose edges or anything. So it really is necessary to tape it up like that, at least in my experience. So and then we're left with this nice piece that has a tissue paper on just normal paper. And I'm going to feed this through. You just want to make sure you know the orientation of your printer. And I just have a regular inkjet printer. It's not a fancy printer at all. So while that's printing, I'm just taking some Mod Podge and I'm putting this all over my tray, and I'm just making sure I do a nice thin coat of it. And then once I get that on, I'm going to set this aside and let this dry completely. This is totally foreign to me because I've never tried this before, so hopefully everything turns out okay. So now you can kind of see that there's a few little smudges from the printer, but it didn't affect my design, so it's totally fine because we're going to take that out actually. And so I'm just kind of going to take this off, and I was able to rip mine or tear mine here, but just be really careful not to tear your design as you're getting this off of your paper there. But you can kind of see how there's a little bit of negative areas there, like the white. So I want this fairly close to my design. So I'm just using a brush with some water on it, and then I'll be able to tear that away, as you can see here, just very delicately. And this is going to give you kind of a raw edge. So it's going to not be like a definite edge that you get with a scissor, like that crisp, clean edge like that, because then you'll be able to see that on your surface. Where if you have a natural edge like this with some like fibers and stuff like this, it blends in so much better to your surface. Now I'm going to place this down, and my Mod Podge is completely dry, and kind of center this exactly where I want it. My hope is that when I lay this down and put this on, that all of those cracks on the paint come through looking like this design was painted on there, and it is cracked as well. So I just start using my hand and smoothing it out a little bit, and already I can tell, okay, this might work, because it's starting to kind of like not really stick down, but it definitely is held in place. And so I'm just taking, I have a mini heat press, and I bought this on Amazon. I can leave a link in my description box for you, but a regular iron would work too. This is just nice because it's kind of little and can get right into all these little small areas. And I'm just going to go over this. And you guys have all told me that I'm going to love this process. It's going to work so great. And you guys were totally right. This is amazing. Apparently it just heats a little bit of that Mod Podge up, and it just sets this design down with no wrinkles, nothing, no tearing. You don't have to worry about using any like cling wrap or anything, or saran wrap or plastic wrap, whatever you guys call it. But it works so nice. And I'm just going over all of the edges just very lightly, because I still don't want to tear my design. So I don't know where this is my first time. Maybe I'm being a little too delicate. I don't know. But I'm just going over all of the edges and making sure that it is completely down and flat and smooth. And as you can see right there up close, that crackle is coming through on that design. So it literally looks like this design was painted on there and that crackle came through. That's what is so fun about using tissue paper, is because of how thin it is. And I love the way that this looks. Now to seal this, I'm just going to go over with some Mod Podge, just very carefully. You want to make sure that your design is completely dry, or you run the risk of smearing the ink. So mine had dried for maybe like a half an hour before I did this project. So just keep that in mind as you're doing this. And if you see the ink start to smear, just stop immediately, let it dry, and then go back in. But oh my gosh, how beautiful is this? This is going to be so fun, kind of set up against a backsplash in my kitchen, or even just like with some cute designs on it, or a little decor on it, I mean. But look at that crackle coming through that design. Like, you cannot even tell that that was not painted on there. I mean, this is such a wonderful looking piece. Do you guys like this process? Have you tried the process of decoupage that I just did? I'm totally blown away at how well that works. So thank you to everybody who's commented now for months telling me to try this. Like, I'm definitely a fan. This little picket fence came from Dollar Tree, and it is so cute, and I was trying to come up with the perfect project to do with it, and I absolutely love how this turns out. So I do just paint all of the little picket fence here with some chalk paint, and I paint it white, and I'm careful just to get in between all of the little edges and all the little creases. And then I take this little chick that came from a package of like 6 or 8 or something from Dollar Tree, and I just paint it all yellow. And I thought it would be so cute to kind of put this little chick on my little picket picket fence. So I just take a tumbling tower block so I can prop that chick out just a little bit. That would be totally optional. But what I'm going to do is take some reindeer moss and I am going to glue it all along the bottom of the picket fence. So it looks like the chick is kind of standing in some grass against the fence. So I just use hot glue to place that down. Just be careful not to burn your fingers when you're doing this part, just because, you know, it is moss that you're putting there. And if you push down too hard, that glue will seep up. So you can wear finger protectors or anything, but I just take little pieces of that and I just glue it all along the bottom there. I just want to let you guys know that I absolutely appreciate and love all of the support that you have given me. And if you do like what you're seeing in the video, remember to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome. Consider subscribing. I would love to have you join the Farm Charm Chic family. We love to have lots of fun and do fun DIYs here. So I do glue that little chick down, and then I take just a little bit more of that reindeer moss and kind of put it around the little feet there. And then you could even go as far as doing like a little orange on its little legs and like its beak or anything like that. I just kind of made it a little bit simple and kind of liked, I was afraid, honestly, I was going to mess it up. So I just kind of left it how it was. But I thought, and you could do this easily before you put that little chick down, but I just distressed the fence here. So I just went with a chip brush and I was kind of heavy in places. I really wanted it to just kind of look like a little shabby, you know, like it was a little farm fence. And I took the end of a paintbrush in some black paint and made a little eye on our little chick there and thought it would be so cute to do a little twine bow around its neck. So I do take a piece of one of the paint sticks and cut off, and I kind of sanded the edges to round it off there. I painted it with some antiquing wax, and then I cut out the word chirp to put on there. I thought that was so cute to have this little chick. He's just trying to tell us something and all we can understand is chirp, but he's probably saying Happy Easter or something like that. Anyway, I thought he was just really cute. This is perfect for a little cute tiered tray, or again, just something to set on a shelf somewhere in your house. I just thought it was really unique and super cute. But what do you think about this little chick? I love how this DIY turns out, and I just want you to know that this 100% came from the brain of Jamie over at Simple Roots Simple Living, and I will leave a link to the video where she made this and also her channel down there just so you can check her out if you want to, because she is so talented. But I loved this DIY and it was so simple and perfect for spring. So I'm just taking one of the candle holders from Dollar Tree and one of the wire baskets, and I super glue them to one another. I did end up spray painting them black, which I probably really didn't need to do. I kind of thought I would sand this more and the black would shine through. So you can actually just go for it with skipping that step. That's why it didn't show me painting it all black. But I'm just taking a makeup sponge with a clothespin and I am just dabbing some white chalk paint all over this. I will end up covering the whole thing. You could even just take this and just spray paint it completely white if you wanted to do that, which, you know, here I go, everything's totally white, and I ended up not sanding it down, but I make a rust color and I love this rust on here. I think it looks so good. I take a brown, a maroon, an orange, and a yellow to make my rust, and I'll kind of go over the spots of where I want that rust texture to be, and then I'll even go in with just a teeny bit of yellow over and dab it on, because if you look at natural rust, it really does kind of sometimes have that little yellow fleck. And sometimes I mix a little baking soda in it to give it a good texture. It just depends on the project that I'm working on. You can make this as rusty as you want, or not at all if you want to skip that step. I just loved the fact that it looked like it had been sitting out like an egg basket, sitting out on the farm for a long time. Now I do go down on that riser, that little candle holder, and I do add a little bit onto that so it looks like it was rusted, and I use a brush to do it on there, and I am just tapping to give it that texture. And if you put baking soda in there, this will give it that nice rusty texture, how rust kind of bubbles. And I just do that till your heart's content or till it looks good. And then I just put a little Spanish moss and some eggs in it, and look at how adorable this is. I love this. I use it all the time in my spring decor. Actually, I ended up leaving this out through most of the summer last year with just some regular farm eggs in there, and it was so cute. A little while back, I picked up this cute little house sign from Dollar Tree, and I thought it would be really fun to kind of turn it into a cute little Easter item. Now, I have these little rub-on transfers. You can pick them up at Dollar Tree. I got this from Essential Stencils, which I will link in my description. But even like IOD transfers, you can print on tissue paper, use a sticker. There's so many different options, but I thought it would be really fun to put this on here. It kind of has a postage stamp vibe to it, which I thought was really cute. After I rub the design on there, I am just putting a little bit of Mod Podge on it. This is going to help protect that transfer so that way it's not going to scuff or scratch or anything like that. And I'm just being careful to only keep it on the transfer because I didn't want anything to like give a different sheen to that chalkboard background that's there. Now this egg also came from Dollar Tree, and I bought this with the sole purpose of trying to get this little tin bunny off of here. I thought he was just so cute, and I thought it would be so fun to do other projects with him. Plus then you have a giant egg shape for a different sign if you want. But you can see I'm just using my putty knife. Just go slow and take your time, and it will come right off without bending. Just be patient with it. Now he was very shiny, which would be cute, but I kind of wanted to give him a like rusted look. So I started with some antiquing wax, and I just kind of pounced that on. I used a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of Merlot. And I just kind of go all the way, like pounce back and forth between the different colors to kind of create a rust color. Now you'll have to tell me when this is done. I know the rust isn't everybody's cup of tea, and I get that. So paint him white, that would be so cute. But I honestly feel like maybe not so much rusty that he looks like, but he looks like it's his little brown fur, or maybe even like a chocolate bunny or something. But I think he turned out pretty cute, but it's just kind of a fun technique to go and kind of make it look like faux rust. But paint him however you want. It's going to be darling, even just to leave him the way that it is. Now I'm grabbing a little bit of boxwood that I'm just gluing back behind him, kind of peeking out. And then this is just a little lavender sprig that came off of one of those really cute spring picks that Dollar Tree has. And I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the bottom there, and then I will just kind of hold that in place until it dries to create kind of the floral aspect of it. And I have this little package of nests, and I believe I got them at Hobby Lobby, and it came with like 4 in a pack, and they're pretty small. And I just am gluing that right on there. And I'm going to make some little eggs in just a minute to go in there. But I felt like it needed a little more color. So I have this, are just some leftover little fuzzy flowers that I had. I did a DIY with them a couple videos back, and they were really cute, but it was kind of this beautiful orange and yellow colors on them. So I thought it would bring that little spring pop of color into this DIY. So it's fun. You can use just kind of your scrap little florals that you have, little leftovers to kind of make this little vignette and kind of make it really fun and make it your own. Now I'm just taking some air dry clay, and I'm just going to roll these into a little egg shape. And if you can find some eggs that are small enough to go in here, or put some different eggs, you don't want to do this step, go for it. Even just like a cute little bird in there would be cute. I just wanted to have these little itty bitty eggs in there. I just thought that would be really fun. As I was making this DIY, I was kind of thinking that this is this cute little rabbit that's visiting his house of his friends, the birds, and maybe he's just watching over their little eggs while they're gone or something. I don't know. I just thought it was really kind of a fun little vignette to create here. Now I'm just doing a little bit of speckling on these eggs to add just a little bit of visual interest. You could leave them white. You could paint them fun colors like a robin's egg color would be really pretty too. I just kind of liked the white on there. I felt like with the black background and where I had the color in the flowers, that the white really kind of popped there, and I liked that. But I mean, definitely make it your own if you decide to recreate this, because it's just, I mean, it's what's so fun about creating these is there's really no right or wrong. It's what you like. Now I had a little bit of antiquing wax left in my brush, so I just went over that wood to kind of rustic it up a little bit. It was kind of a little bit blonde, if you will, so I just kind of was making it tone it down a little bit. Now I did take a little bit of Spanish moss and tuck up in under any empty spaces that were at the bottom there, so like under the nest there, kind of behind the bunny a little bit. I felt like that really, and then I just kind of trimmed it off. I felt like that just kind of really closed in any gaps there. But here's the completed piece, and I think that this turned out beautiful, and I loved it. It was so fun to create and kind of come up with all these little different elements here. And I've held on to this little house for quite some time and had no idea what I was going to do with it. And I really felt like this ended up being such a lovely piece, and how cute for all of Easter and all of spring to have this sit out. What do you guys think of this one? Do you like it? I have this cutting board or charcuterie board that I got from Hobby Lobby in their clearance. It was like $15 originally. I think I got it for like 75% off. It had this great big scratch down the middle in the plastic, so it's not like you would really want to use it. So I knew I was going to have to completely cover the surface. So I was thinking that Mod Podge would probably help with paint and this like plastic texture that it is. So I did a good coat of Mod Podge all over because I plan on painting the whole surface. And I just paint it all a white color. It takes like 2 or 3 coats to get the coverage that I want. Then using a combination of painter's tape and some washi tape, I made like a ticking stripe, so the wide stripe down the middle and then the 2 small stripes on the side. Now watch what happens when I peel back the tape. It starts to peel the paint off of the surface, and it does it almost with every strip that I peel off here. Now that Mod Podge was completely dry before I put the paint on. That paint had sat overnight and it had completely dried, but it still peeled some off. But I really liked the look of the stripe on there. So I just decided to go touch it up my best and see what that looked like before I scrapped it or started over. So I just went in with a little teeny brush with some white paint that I did and just touched those little areas up. And then I also go in with a little teeny tiny brush and I do the green. I did just take my time as I was doing this. I moved really slowly. This is even sped up to like double time, but I just wanted to make sure that I could get as crisp as lines as possible while kind of freehanding it. I go in with a little bit of white paint that's left on my brush and kind of dry brush it over to kind of give it an aged look. I thought that might mask any type of imperfections or anything there. So of course you would not have to do that step if your peel back of your paint worked out great. So I have these three shapes from Dollar Tree, the little chick, the little bunny, and the little egg. And I thought it would be really cute to do like a stack on there. So I'm just using that little spackling to cover up the little hole that is on the top of these. And I just stain them with some antiquing wax, and then I go around the edges with some white paint just to kind of give it a little chippy look and give it a little dimension when it's glued onto the cutting board. I take just a little bit of this pink pipberry and just kind of wrap it all around the egg. I thought that would be kind of a super cute little textural element there. And then I just lay these out on my cutting board to kind of see how I want them to lay, and this is the order that I decide. I felt like that egg needed to be in the middle with the little pipberry on there. And I have these little wooden discs and I'm using that to glue onto the cutting board. It will kind of raise them up a little bit, give it more of a 3D look than it would have had anyway, and it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a high-end feel, I think. Plus you're getting a really even surface to glue on there with that pipberry on the back of the egg. Next, I take a piece of rope from Dollar Tree and unravel it and take one of the little strands and I just feed it through the hole that's there and just tie a knot in it to kind of have it look more of like a rustic element there. I think this turned out so cute. It is going to be so fun sitting against the backsplash in my kitchen. I love this. I think the colors look so cute, and I love the little color of the antiquing wax on the bunny and the egg and the little chick there. So I am taking this package of bunnies that I got at Dollar Tree, and I'm taking 3 of them. I believe it comes with like 6 or 8 in a package, but I am taking each one of these 3 to represent my 3 children. So you can do them in any group number that you want, but that's where I came to the conclusion of doing 3. So I'm just using some spackling to cover up. They come with a little hole that you can make like a garland or something, make ornaments or something out of them. So I just take spackle and I just cover that hole and let that dry so it becomes a solid piece. So now I am just going to paint each of my bunnies. Now you can do whatever colors you want. You guys, I let my 3 kids come and pick out the colors they wanted. I told them they had to kind of be like all pastels or all bright colors or something like that. And these are the tones that they all chose and the colors that they all chose. So I love the fact that I included them, but they're a little brighter than my normal decor. I love the colors they picked out, and I'm so excited that this represents them and each color that they picked. So I'm taking these frames that also came from Dollar Tree, and I just removed the little clip from them, and then I took out the little galvanized metal and I flipped it upside down because they had a hole on them, and I want my bunny when I place it down to cover that hole. So now I'm just taking some little wooden cubes that I have from Dollar Tree and I just glue those down, and that will kind of prop these bunnies out to be more 3D. This would be totally optional, but I do like that 3D feel that it gives. So now I take just a little bit of hot glue and I just go down the edge of the one frame there, and you can see I'm kind of just pushing that next frame together, and I'm kind of putting it at an angle at the front at first and then pushing it backwards. So that way the glue, if it seeps out, will seep out on the back and not on the front. You can kind of see I place those front edges together and then push it back. Hopefully that makes sense. Now sometimes Dollar Tree things are not all symmetrical, so when I went to place this, the little flaps on the back that like hang those up, or not hang them up, but stand them up, it was not really level, so I just tore all of those off, and I just cut a couple craft sticks to glue on to reinforce the back of this. And now I'm just going with a little chip brush and I'm just doing a little bit of distressing around each of the bunnies. I'm doing this just to add a little bit more texture to it, since it is on that little cube and it's got that 3D look to it. This just kind of helps give it a little bit more dimension. I first went around with antiquing wax and then decided that one in the middle needed a little bit bright white, and I liked how that looked, so I did that on all sides. And then I just took some twine and stapled that onto the back in case I decided to hang this because I wasn't really sure where I was putting it. And now I just found these little pom-poms and I thought they would be so cute to make these bunnies have a little cotton tail. So not only do I have the option to hang this, but I take a couple of the tumbling tower blocks and I just glue those onto the back, and I'm kind of standing it up so it doesn't like fall forward or anything. I get the right angle that I need for it to stand up. So if I decide to prop this up somewhere or hang it, I have either of those options. So I'm just showing you both here that you can do it either way, whatever best fits your style. But look at how cute it turns out. I might even go in with a little tag or cut out my Cricut, my kids' names to put on each of the bunnies. But I just thought this was so cute, and it was a fun way to kind of include them. They were all excited to see. I didn't tell them what I was doing. I just had them pick out the colors of paint. So it was kind of fun for them to see what this looked like when I got it all done. But what do you guys think of this?
I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting!
If you liked the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.